Welcome to the Tenet Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson here with my good friend and partner. You know him as quite possibly the most interesting man in the world, South Dakota's favorite son, the one and only Wes Brown.
Todd, how you doing, my friend? Oh my God.
I know.
Favorite son thing. I know I put a call into Christy Noem recently, and no, I'm not her favorite son anyway. So, but
that's just one person though.
Yeah, I know. I think the lieutenant governor likes me more because I know him better.
Okay.
Than the governor. But yeah, it's nice to be known as the South Dakota's native son.
I'm just playing you up, man. I'm marketing you right and left. But you got to do the extra work. You got to do the legwork. So
all right. I'll make a tour this summer.
You need to do some contests because I'm out of contests.
Okay. Well, I have to work on that.
I'm going to keep my eye open for this summer.
You do that.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen. So how you been?
Good. I feel much better since the last episode that we did. I managed to contract COVID, which was not the worst thing that I've ever experienced, but it wasn't exactly a fun thing either.
Wasn't a walk in the park, as they say.
It was a bunch of laying around. I did have to have some discipline to make myself chill out for about 10 days. Binge watched a bunch of television and finished a couple series. So I guess that's something, but yeah, don't suggest it. If you have the opportunity, get a booster or the new booster or whatever. I'm fully vaccinated. I still got it. I think I got that new variant and I'm hoping there's no lasting things with it that I have any kind of after effects. So yeah, I'm good. Happy. Good. It's a great weight loss program in case you're wondering.
Yeah. Everybody knows I need to, including my doctor.
Oh, dude. Hey, I know what happened between something that was really good, though, that happened between last time I talked with you and we did an episode and today when we're recording. Last week, it was confirmed by the Denver Public Library Commission. They voted to approve the Bob Raglan Branch Library.
Nice.
As the name for the library's newest location at 1900 East 35th Street, Suite A, at that art park that we went and at the kickoff last fall. Yep. So that library, that's the Bob Raglan Library.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are they going to have some of his works there?
That's a great question. We'll have to find that out. Yeah. We'll have to reach out to
maybe we can talk to somebody about that. That'd be kind of fun.
That would be cool.
Tidbit. No, that's fantastic news, man.
Yeah. And for people that don't know, Bob Raglan was a Denver art legend. We had him early on in the Tenet podcast. He's episode number 2, if you want to check it out. And he was the original non-starving artist. He was all about the business and wanting to know how artists made a living and made an art life that was sustainable. So check out that episode. Visit the Bob Raglan branch. I think they're going to have I think it's going to be later on this summer. They're going to have a big ceremony and kickoff or what have you. But yeah, so happy. We lost him just about a year ago. So this was great news to hear that they named this branch after Bob. And if there's anybody in the world that appreciated the Denver Public Library, it was Bob. He loved making trips to the library to do art reconnaissance and figure out how people were making it work, making money.
And one of my favorite quotes from him is read a book.
Read a book. Read a book. We got to pull that soundbite out.
Oh my God. I guess so. I'll have to dig it out.
We got to do it. We got to do it.
It cracks me up every time I heard, because I've listened to that episode multiple times. And every time when he says, if you want to know anything, read a book. I just die laughing. So anyway, well, that's good news. Thanks for sharing that, Todd. I appreciate it.
Bob, we love you wherever you're at out there in the universe.
Yes, sir.
All right. Before we get to this week's guest, I want to remind our listeners to follow us on social media on our Tenet Podcast Facebook page and on our Instagram at Tenet Podcast. And of course, check out our website, tenetpodcast.com, where you can access both our current episodes and the entire Tenet archive. All right, Wes Brown, are you ready? You ready
I'm
to
ready.
talk some art?
I am.
Did you stretch before the episode?
I did. I actually touched my toes, which is, can be a feat in itself. But
you can touch your toes?
Barely.
Wow. I'm impressed. I'm not sure I can touch my toes. I need to work on that, but all right. Well, good for
you. So when I was in jiu-jitsu, it was, instead of kicking to the head, it was always kicking to the shins, because that was about the height I could go. So boy, but I have strong legs. So you knew when you got kicked to the shins.
You do have
roundhouse
strong
to
legs.
The shins. There we go. I am ready.
That sounds painful. All right.
And I've stretched and I got my water. So
got the mouth muscles ready to roll.
I probably should have did vocal exercises though.
Right.
Everybody thinks yes, but I should do vocal exercises. That would be good. All right. Let's do this.
All right. Our guest this week is an artist, sculptor, designer, and illustrator. Her name is Gail Folwell. Gail's work is absolutely breathtaking. Gail is exhibited with the National Academy of Design and the National Sculpture Society in New York. She has works in the Denver Art Museum, as well as monument, public and privately commissioned works included in collections of the University of Notre Dame, University of South Alabama, Vail Valley Foundation, Bowling Green State University, the city of Frisco, Texas, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame in where? West
Canton,
Brown?
Ohio. Canton, Ohio.
Again, another Ohio connection.
And aren't you impressed? I knew.
I know.
Canton, Ohio.
I am actually. Everything great comes from Ohio.
Yep.
Welcome to the program. How are you, Gail?
I am good. It's hard to be quiet and not giggle when I'm listening to you guys.
Oh, you could giggled. You could have interjected.
Laughing.
We have that happen all the time.
Okay, good. But now I can because I'm officially here.
That's
You're
right.
officially
That's
here.
right.
You've made your entrance.
Well, welcome. It's good to see you, Gail. Wow.
Thank you. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you, Todd.
You're welcome. You were based in Boulder, right? But now you're in the Aspen area. Is that correct?
Yes, I just moved up here in May and found a studio, and I'm just outside of Aspen. Basalt is this town.
Oh,
My
love
studio
that.
is live in Carbondale. It's pretty amazing. The mountains never cease to inspire.
That's some of my favorite part of the Colorado Rockies is, and I really love Redstone in that area is some of my favorite. But I mean, the Maroon Bells, it doesn't get any better than that, right?
Exactly. Well, you got to tell me if you're up here. You got to come. To the studio.
Yeah. That and Telluride. Telluride's pretty nice
Pretty
too.
spectacular too. Yep. Both Fox Canyons,
Yeah.
Serious plane rides in. That's the best place to be.
Oh my God. Flying into Aspen's got to be a little scary though, right?
They just sort of put the brakes on and drop.
Yeah. Next to the Himalayas, that airport,
Right.
when there's that one that is just absolutely crazy. But that Aspen one looks a little gnarly.
Indeed.
What was the catalyst for the move? Are you still maintaining a Boulder studio as well, or you're now there in Basalt?
Nope, we're here in Basalt. We had a really cool house. My husband's an architect, and somebody knocked on our door and offered us enough money to make us think, going to the mountains. Great. Wow. So I had been dreaming of a studio up here for a very long time, and it all just sort of fell into place for whatever serendipitous universal reasons that things fall into place. But it's kind of amazing because I lived up here when I was young, briefly, and have been pining to come back ever since, but just never really thought I could afford a studio, make it work. It's just a wicked dynamic art community. It's amazing. There's a lot happening.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And considering it's really out in the middle of, it's really out in the middle of nowhere. It's by itself. Like there's one road in, basically the pass roads. But
it closes sometimes.
Yeah. So,
but at the same time, it is a convergence of New York and LA in every sense of the word.
I never thought about that.
It's because of the people here, the Idea Center and the Herbert Bayer, the conferences that happen here, the music that happens here. It's just sort of the best of the best cities.
Yeah.
it's crazy how big the bands are that play in these little closet spaces.
Right.
Fun. Right.
Well, congratulations. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
you know what? Sometime we'll have to come up and do a studio visit with you.
You
That
are
would be
always welcome.
Twist my arm, Todd.
Absolutely. Not kidding. Not kidding.
We have a number to a whole list of people that we need to come see and visit with. So
There you go.
you're on the list.
All right.
We'll move Gail at the top though.
She's high on the
where
list.
she's located. Yeah.
Look, I have a studio loft up there. Yeah, I can give you a place to crash too.
Oh, we love that.
Oh my God.
We should have done this in person. We could have done
You
the
gotta
whole
make me
like,
sound good though, take out all the bad stuff.
Well, we're going to have a second interview, a studio visit, and we'll crash at the loft.
Okay.
Kind of like in Steamboat Springs.
They're fun. We can do
Yeah.
it live.
We stayed with Sue in Steamboat Springs.
Steamboat. Yeah.
Yeah. That was
told me.
nice. Yeah.
Another epic mountain town. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we really get into this, I want to direct our what? Why are you laughing?
We're already knee deep into it. Todd.
Okay. Before we get too far into
Before we get
any
hip deep.
further,
You guys.
Anyway. Sorry.
take it over, Wes Brown.
I don't know what you were going to say.
Oh, I thought you were reading my mind.
No.
Okay. Before we go any further, I want to direct our listeners to Gail's website. It's folwellstudios.com, FOLWELL, and you can find her on Instagram at Folwell Studios. All right. That was my 2 cents.
And if you're driving, pull over before you bring it up on your phone to peruse them. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Pull over
I think
first.
that's the safe thing to do.
Yeah.
You will actually be blown away. The work is stunning. It's just absolutely beautiful. And the ideas that Gail has, some of the ideas that she have not come to fruition, in addition to the work that she's done and the commission she's done, you will be blown away. You did not start out as a sculptor, but you were always doing art, it sounds like, even from a young age. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. I was a designer by education. I got a design degree first and had a great design profession going until I tried a little bit of clay and kind of leaped into a different void.
So where'd you go to design school at?
I went to DU, University of Denver, which is not a renowned art school, but I got very lucky because it was amazing teachers there.
Yeah.
I've actually talked to quite a few people that have come out of DU and have had successful art careers or, affiliated in some way with the art world.
Nice.
Yeah. And you ran your own design studio for like 14 years or something like that before you pivoted, right?
Yeah. Yeah. More like 10-ish.
10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that. Yeah. And then, and that was great. I loved it. I still love design.
And very successful. It looks like looking at your resume, you earned a lot of awards in the time that you were doing that and got a lot of accolades.
I did. It was fantastic.
What drew you to that profession early on?
Design. I one of the reasons that, who did you just mention? Bechter, the library. I'm already a fan. I like him. I wanted to make money. I am a business-minded person. I like solving problems. I knew that from the beginning. I didn't want to hole up and just do art for myself. And I don't think early in the game I had the confidence to just make art for myself and know what that looked like. I needed projects, lots of them. And I always headed for design. I like putting things together. I like choreographing. I like, and at that time you had to do typography and photography and gather all the forces of all the different people, put it together literally on a drafting table. These things intrigued me, juggling a lot of pieces and parts and making the best point you could make. Messaging. I'm still into messaging, even through the fine arts. I want to explore ideas and convey them.
Were you always industrious? Were you an industrious child?
Ridiculously so, yes. It's a blessing and a curse. Yeah, I like to get things done.
I heard or read, I can't remember which, that even in your youth, you would make these little sports sculptures and you would sell them to your mom's friends. Is that correct?
Yes, a very early capitalist for sure. Yeah, I did. And I had a good audience with my mom and dad's friends for sure. That's funny. You dug deep into my website. God bless you.
Where does that come from? Is it something that you just have, or were your parents entrepreneurs?
They were, and they were both creatives. My dad was a musician, started radio stations in Southern Ontario, and was an entrepreneur. And mom was too. She did a lot of fabulous stuff. She was also very competitive in sports. So was my dad. But I think they, we were just always really super busy. If we weren't competing in something, we were making stuff. And they saw at an early age that I liked to do things with my hands. So they just kept feeding me. My grandfather was a steel worker, that he'd bring me shavings of metal. What are you going to give a little girl? Metal shavings, see if she can cut herself. But, they'd bring me all kinds of stuff because I just would make things out of anything. Dirt, if I needed to. Yeah, I like making stuff. I tortured my children in the same way.
Are your children artists as well?
They're not artists. They're incredibly creative, but they both went to Wall Street.
Oh, okay.
So I did something right.
There you go.
They can be artists later, but no, they're both absolutely brilliant, but unbelievably talented artists also. That'll be their secret.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool.
So where you grew up in Ontario, and you said
Yes.
Southern Ontario, and what's the town's name that you grew up on?
Guelph.
Guelph.
Guelph. It's a big hockey town.
Okay.
And there's a university there. It's ag and veterinary mostly.
So pretty rural in that area.
Yeah. Guelph's not a very big town. It's 100,000 now or so, something like that, I think. Yeah. It's Canada. It's lovely. It's kind of quiet.
And then you came to Colorado to go to school, right?
I did. I went to DU. Both my brother and I went to DU. Although I was looking at all the fancy art schools, he convinced me I needed to go to DU because there was great skiing. Yeah.
So you guys must have been fairly close in age, and were you partners in crime?
Yep, exactly. Skied a lot. And he was in the hotel school. It was really good. So silly me, he picked the best hotel school and said, they got a great art program. You should come here. And I was like, okay. Yeah, but it was, he must've gotten lucky because I never looked back. It was great.
So you worked as a graphic designer for 10 years. And then what was the catalyst that really put you on this path with fine art and sculpture?
Oddly enough, I was teaching. I was invited to be a guest teacher at the University of Denver and Metro State College. And while I was teaching, I had time, instead of constantly corralling work, to take a couple classes at the Art Students League in Denver. And literally it was one class. And I had never, although I'd done pretty every medium I thought I could think of, and loved all of them. That was an oil-based clay on an armature class. And even though I'd sculpted, there was nothing like this. And I kind of freaked out and just thought, oh my God, this is my language. And I really dearly love design and typography, but sculpture in that medium that is truly so malleable indefinitely. It's not like water-based clay where you have to wrap it up and keep it wet. It's on an armature, and you can really change things and let it morph and go away, and it evolves indefinitely in front of you. And I just really felt like I found something I had to talk about. Whereas if you're painting, and I love painting and stuff too, you're always looking for something outside that it will inspire you to make. And then when I had that, I already knew all the things I wanted to make. It was kind of like the voice to release all the messages and exploration and personal stuff that I wanted to explore. It was the language to do it in. And I didn't even know I wanted to do that. But that kind of opened Pandora's box, if you might you might think sort of like that.
What made you want to even take a class like that? I mean, was there something that you kind of in the back of your head thought, I think this is interesting, or I've always wanted to do this, or it was more of a whim type of thing that you were like, let's just go explore this?
No, I love change. I love new things. I love learning. Read a book. I love that guy. I like to learn new things, and I like to create solve new problems. And the Art Students League always had all kinds of interesting classes and really great instructors. And that was just one that was like, okay, never done that before. Let's check it out. And I would rather overload, my plate than underload it. So teach, you run a business, and you take classes. And something's got to be fun in the day, right? No, that was just one of many classes that I took.
And I'm just kind of curious, was it the tactile experience of what was going on with the medium and thinking about these ideas that maybe were kind of brewing for a while?
I don't even know, to tell you the truth. It was the silliest art project I could have possibly imagined, because it was experience. So it was a one-day crash course in what armature-based sculpture is. And it was at the zoo with a guy that does animals. And I have really no interest in sculpting animals, or the zoo didn't intrigue me, but I thought, oh, new medium. Cool. Okay. What are the materials I need? We get there. I went for the easiest thing. I thought, what's going to stand still? Well, hippopotamus doesn't move a whole hell of a lot. So he can be a good model for me. But as soon as I created it, which happened very quickly, just what comes out of your hands when you're not paying attention, if you will, it was just so right. It just felt so right that I didn't want to sculpt a hippopotami, but that night, everything in my head that was 3D, all the things that I love, experiences that I've had, all sort of started coming to mind in that form. And I can draw and sketch and print make and do portraiture and all that kind of stuff. But this was just a more expressive way of making beyond what you see. It was less literal, I guess, or it could be literal, but for me, it was just this bizarre expression of being able to take something that you feel and pour it into a language that expresses it the best it can. And of all the mediums that I'd ever experimented with, I was borrowing information from outside myself to think what was interesting, what was beautiful, what will intrigue people. But this was very personal for some reason. It was like your own blood. It was odd. It was very strange.
Then how long have you been sculpting?
About 25 years now. Yeah. I
was listening to one of your YouTubes, and you said one of the first pieces you did was a piece called Bereaved. And it was about your mom.
Yeah.
Kind of a self-portrait, you said. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I lost both my folks very too young, but I was an adult. Of course, I'd started sculpting already, but it was the first piece that I really, really disappeared for. And that's why, you guys probably know from looking at my website, I like sports. I think that's where these two things have a lot in common. A lot of athletes, you get to that pivotal point that's just so intense that you completely lose everything else. It all falls away and you're so in it that you're gone, essentially. And so I think that piece was the first time that art had taken me that far out of myself. And the experience made that. I don't even know where that came from. And that's that beautiful thing that all of us keep looking for, whether you do it in meditation or whatever your hobby is, if you write or if you dance or if you sing. I know you were going to practice your voice lessons. That piece was the first time I really experienced going away and then coming back hours later and realizing that that all of us have this duality of right and left brain, of the I and the me, the thinking side of your brain, and the other one that's tapped into something bigger. That if we could just let go of ourselves more often and tap into that something bigger, things will happen for us. It's not such a struggle, but it is a struggle to get out of our ego left brain because we really want to understand and figure everything out the hard way. But I think that's why we're here, as souls going around and around and around again till we get that. Stop thinking your way through. You already know, right? That's a whole nother conversation. But Bereaved, I really love the piece. And if you look at it closely, there's a silhouette missing inside that body. So I had started out at the table trying to describe the fact that when your parents are always bigger than you, they're always larger than life until they get sick. And then you're the big person and they're smaller somehow. And you want to sort of pick it up and make it all go away and fix everything like you would with a kid. It's a very strange shift that happens. And then when she left, that coring of your existence was just so viscerally bizarre. That sculpture, instead of me holding another person, turned into me holding onto a void of myself falling apart because there was nothing in there, which did not happen consciously. And that was what was so cool about it. And now all of us just keep coming back to the table, trying to play the right music, do it at the right time, stay long enough to do that every time I sculpt. And that's kind of the beauty of falling into something that you really love, when you can go away. Everybody leaves the room and there's just something happening. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah. In sports that, a lot of times they refer to as being in the zone,
exactly.
Where time literally slows down and you see things that you wouldn't in a normal speed or whatever, that you're so much more aware of everything that's going on around you. Yeah.
Right.
And in this case, you're so in tune with what you're doing that the surrounding falls away.
Exactly. And you're all the voices and all your information, all your critical feedback, all your shoulds and shouldn'ts, that's all irrelevant. It's all gone. You did enough front loading of information that you can let it all go and just be. And that's a really cool thing. So in all our categories, let's hope we can get to that place more in sports and meditation, in our craft, or in our conversations, hopefully.
Yeah.
Isn't that the mission?
I love this piece, by the way. It's, and I haven't seen it in person, but just this photograph. And part of this is both Todd and I are dealing with aging parents, and it's, my mom has recently moved in with me. So I was connecting with what you're saying. And so this piece is just stunning and probably is relevant to what I'm going through now. So I appreciate you talking about it.
Thanks. And that is very honoring to hear, because the whole reason we're doing anything that we do is to connect with other people, right? So if that art connected with you, then I'm good.
Yeah.
That's the point. We're all human, and we're all sort of going through the same stuff. And if we can help each other figure it out, that's the point. That's what I hope the point is. A lot of art, not so much.
Right.
But ideally, that's what everybody, is hopefully trying to do: make connections, share their experience, search, find out, try to solve your own curiosities and answers, and deeper thinking than let's make something that looks cool. That's just not really where it's at.
And the pieces that last forever are probably the pieces that truly have some kind of visceral connection to basic humanity, right? Where most people can evoke something from it, Right.
And I think that can happen in anything you do. Well, it's the same with music and dance and everything else, right? Movies. If the person playing the part can truly drop into feeling that part, then that there's something more that makes it art. Then it goes beyond craft, and it becomes something that is ever living. And every time you go back to it, you're going to feel that. It's not just looking at stuff and being impressed. You are going to feel that and find new things and have it relate to new experiences And I think that's in all the different mediums of what we consider art and sport and music and everything, and what you guys even do. When you drop in, when there's more there than just what meets the eye, that's certainly the good stuff that you can put on the wall forever and never tire of. Or maybe you tire of it sometime. Maybe you changed.
Right.
That's very true. And there's things that, and we've discussed this before, there's things that Wes and I have looked at and we're like, I don't know about that. And then in discussion or learning more about it or spending some time with it, a lot of times it's time, we change our minds on something. It's like, oh, now, you know what? Now I kind of see what this is all about. Or I spent enough time with it that it does evoke something inside of me, a feeling or an emotion. And now I like it,
Right. Stuff sometimes it has to grow on you. And you touched on something that's a little funny about art now, because so much of it is sort of blurring the lines between art and entertainment, that it often is very impressive and very scintillating for different reasons, but it's getting a lot of the younger people used to being entertained instead of sitting with something long enough to actually, I had mixed emotions about the Van Gogh thing that went through, because if you just stand there and look at a Van Gogh for long enough, it'll give you a lot of stuff. But now everybody's expecting it to be a full visceral light show experience with sound and rock and roll and music and all that kind of stuff. And it's a little bit sad, because the best art will move you without having all the bells and whistles. And the bells and whistles can move you too if it's got content, not just bells and whistles. It's the idea and the passion and what's personal coming through in whatever your art is, even if it is more immersive technologies, because some of those can be insanely moving. But I really believe that's because the person creating had something more to say rather than just dazzle people. And that's sort of that's that same fine line that you just went beyond something to look at and you're moving people now. And that's cool.
That is cool. That's the highest compliment, is when you can make someone feel something, change the way that they perceive things,
Agreed.
evoke that feeling. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why the arts is so important in culture. That's everything.
Yeah.
It's what moves us forward as a species. It all revolves around art. And it's so funny how art gets kind of, poo-pooed or takes the back seat a lot of times, to what people really think is important. But the reality of it is, and I'll refer back to, our friend Bob Ragland, he's like, art is all around us.
Exactly.
Everything that you look at, from, these computers that we're using right now to, he would always use the word I want to use. Wes, come on, help me.
I don't know.
But you're right. It's what happened with the Bauhaus put that together in the beginning. They were saying, it's not just for the elite. This is everything. What you wear, what you're eating with, the fork, the table, the chair, everything around us. Somebody creativity. There is an argument in all the crazy podcasts I'm listening to. There's an argument that creativity is God. If energy is God, and each of us is energy, and what is creation? It's making something out of nothing. And all the things around us everywhere are somebody's imagination coming to fruition, right?
They're all examples of art.
Right. They're all art, creative, whatever you want to call it. They're all manifestations of somebody's imagination, or something's imagination, I guess. But yeah. And it's all relevant, and it all matters. And just because somebody's painting doesn't make it somehow not necessary. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. So, Bob's example would be like everything from the table tent that's sitting on the restaurant table to the coffee cup to, if you're at a Broncos game, the program to the stadium that you're sitting in, it was all done by an artist.
Yeah. Yep. Somebody created that thing for you.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, coming from doing graphic design, were you able to take that skill set and or some of that skill set and translate it? I would imagine you would, to what you started to do with your sculpture early on.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely. I think everything we do feeds into everything else we do on so many levels, but design truly is sort of, because it's very measurable. Design teaches you how to make primary, secondary, and tertiary moves to get certain results, and how everything has layers of importance. And I think in fine art, it's the same way. I mean, as when I started the design brain probably was involved more than it is now, but to start thinking about what's the big move here. And for me, it's movement. So the big gesture would be your primary move. And then how all the other stuff falls into place. If you do that, the second and third layers don't even need to say that much. If the big point is really sensual or done well, it's like a tree. You don't need to paint every leaf if the essence of the tree is there, right? So yeah, I think design taught me how to look at things in a really dynamic way, because we had measured success. Does this get people's attention? Does it get the point across? This is how did I get your attention? How did I bring you in? And how did I close you? And not that you want to do art that way, but we all respond to the same things the same way. Things grab our attention. Why? To understand that is sort of a design brain. And now they're turning it into, glasses that tell you where people are looking in the stores, and you'll be able to find out and learn even more. And all that thinking and process, I think, is very interesting.
Design is so important. And, we've talked about this before, but in very loose terms, and that people, even if they don't know design, they know good stuff when they see it, right?
Yeah.
People know when they see something good, even if they can't explain it or just, know the nuances, the concepts behind what's going on.
Right.
They see it. The human brain all works, the same way, in that it registers that, hey, this is good.
Right. Or sometimes people have a really weird taste, but I think there's something to that is what is familiar to us, and familiarity in nature. There's the perfect mean, and what we perceive as balanced and beautiful has grounding in our experience as humans, right? Humans are beautiful. They have a certain proportion to them. And every piece of every human has that same proportion that trees do and everything else does. It's sort of an architecture to what we have been conditioned to perceive as beautiful. And then if we can, assimilate that and put it into our art, it will theoretically have the ingredients to be beautiful too. And we all find different things beautiful, but there is a sort of a fundamental understanding of our experience creating what we think and what we believe, right? So
yeah, even like in nature, the golden ratio and how it's recreated.
Right. Exactly.
Everything. And so when you're doing, whether you're a photographer or doing art, if you can incorporate the golden ratio into your composition, all of a sudden it could shift it into beauty. Maybe it wouldn't have if you wasn't using that kind of ratio idea.
Yeah. And I think intuitively, people that see the way artists see, I think you automatically can do that without even the measurements. We're familiar with proportion, scale, balance, and all those things. But yes, there is the golden ratio, and we've all studied that theoretically a lot, enough to let it go and have it show up. But I think it's very true. I think there is a reason to study all that stuff. Read a book.
Right. And then there's a reason to break the rules.
To let it go and break the rules. Absolutely. Right. But you want to know them so that you can break them and break them properly. Because if you don't break them quite enough, then it just looks wrong.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
You have to have that foundation.
You do. You do. I believe you do. And I think that's being lost a little bit in some places, unfortunately.
And I was talking to an abstract artist that was saying he can usually tell, and maybe not always, and maybe this is paint with a broad brush, but somebody that has been trained in painting form, and then switches to abstract, than somebody that just jumps into abstract without any kind of basic understanding of form.
Was he saying that usually some kind of fundamental training would lend itself to better abstraction? Yeah, I have to agree. I almost always, I would say the same thing. You can tell when somebody has studied something that has given them a good fundamental training, and everybody should be able to draw a little bit. You can't just put a coffee cup that's moldy on a table and call it art. It just doesn't work that way. You can try, and you can have a PhD in talking about it, and people might believe you and buy it for a lot of money, but that doesn't mean it is. It just means you're really good at convincing somebody, and that's happening, and more power to you if you can sell moldy coffee. It's all good, but I won't call it art.
Or a banana duct taped to the wall.
Precisely. Yeah. Yeah. And talking about those things that are familiar, what's beautiful to us. There are a lot of artists that have realized that it's that you can coattail on other artists, which is kind of a cop-out in my book. When you're borrowing and you're putting a Van Gogh in your picture, well, yeah, everybody's going to think it's cool because this, all of a sudden I'm smart. I know who that is. People like things that are familiar. It's like, don't be using somebody else's stuff. But it's happening all over the place. And what can you do? If you can make a living, and I love that you guys are your foundation is on that premise. Artists have a notorious sort of perception that they should starve, and I think that's just plain silly. It's all a perspective. It's entrepreneurship at its finest, and sometimes most difficult. But if you don't treat it like a business, it won't be a business. But if you do,
true.
You can make as much money as you want, and that's all sort of manifesting or whatever. But then you get into that really witchy stuff. We are the keepers of our own destiny.
Well, and I think there's a lot of truth to that.
I truly believe there is.
The whole idea of being prepared and produce, as Ed Dwight would say, that makes all the difference in the world. And we've talked about this a number of times.
Yeah. Show up. And your words and thoughts create your reality, right? If you think you're going to be starving, then, yep, pretty much that's going to be your destiny. But if you don't, and you believe that you can do better than that, I think that's your destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were entrepreneur early on in your life, and that carried through into adulthood and having a successful design firm with your graphic design. When you decided to transition to doing fine art, was that just the epiphany and it just happened overnight, or was it a slow transition? How did that happen from going from your graphic design business to doing sculpture full time?
It was the determination was very quick, but I'm pretty pragmatic. So I kept doing design and segued into it gracefully, sort of. I had to get enough of a body of work, and I started with all cast bronze, which is rather expensive. So I could only make a couple pieces a year and afford to be able to make, 2 or 3 to put in the different galleries that I got into early in the game. So I had to do design while I was doing sculpture. And for me, that was always fun anyway. I'm not very good at doing one thing, which you can probably tell by my portfolio now. And I'm all over the place, but there's so many things to say, and there's so many cool ways to say what you want to say, that there's no reason to lock into, I don't think, one. I really don't care if somebody looks at it and knows that it's a Folwell. I think it is obvious to me, but I think I could do something in any medium and make it work. I don't want to be boxed in by any means, but I liked straddling those two professions, because one of them was a little easier to organize, and determine, you need a client, you go get them, you do the project, you bill it. And art, quite frankly, was a little frustrating for me in the beginning, because I don't like putting my make it or break it in somebody else's hands, and working with galleries, even though they're great. And I count on mine a lot now, but I didn't like the hurry up and wait. I give you stuff and I don't really know if or when you're going to sell it. And that lack of control was a little tough for me in the beginning. So that's when I determined I've got to do commission-based art, because I like a deadline. I like a client. I like to know what we're doing and when, and I like to sort of have a bunch of things going. So that, coupled with galleries and early in the game, some design stuff was all good.
Is the business of being an artist and the business of having a design firm, is the fundamentals the same? Was there a big shift in how you, other than what you just talked about, giving up control, was the fundamentals of the business part the same?
Well, I got better at it as we went along. I wish the fundamentals of it were the same. If I'd known more in the beginning, yes, absolutely. But boy, it wasn't until I wish somebody taught me gross margins early in the game, because I didn't know how to price design either. I actually taught with a gentleman that said to some of my students, they were asking, how do you price? He said, well, it depends on what you need. If you need a motorcycle, it's worth as much as a motorcycle. And I was like, Greg, you can't tell them that. That's not how it works. But at the time, I didn't know about gross margins. And now I do. I mean, you should be able to sort of figure out what you can produce, how much it costs to produce it. And that's just the survival calculation. And then once you've made and established yourself, then that all gets skewed in the arts, of course, as you know. And it can do bigger and better things, but surviving and making things work, artists generally think, if I make a little bit more than it cost me, it's going to be good. That's not good. that's not good. So I think design set me up a little bit better for that. Yes. Because you had to do estimates and bids and have clients, and we had receivables and payables and lots of that stuff happening, and having juggled that, I think, made me probably a better artist in business than having not done that, because there were clients involved, and you can't just kind of mosey your way through when you have clients. Yes, it taught me a lot, but I wish it taught me more faster. Or I wish I'd got more business school in school or something like that. Yeah.
That's the one thing that, and we discuss that all the time on the podcast, is that's the one key, especially going to art school or going to even traditional college, but the focus is on some kind of art or commercial art. That's the missing piece of the puzzle. A lot of times you don't get those that business acumen and those classes that you really need to set you up to be successful, right?
That arguably you need more than all the guys that are studying all the other things that kind of comes inherently with. The artists absolutely need to know all that business acumen, as you mentioned. And it's sad that it's not taught. I literally tried to take business classes. They wouldn't let me into the business school because I was in the art school. I was like, wait, what? How come?
Yeah. How does that compute, right?
Yeah. That's not fair. I want to know how to do all that stuff too. But anyway, I think some of the schools are getting better at it for sure. And I think a lot of the dialogue, like you guys are setting up a platform for it, so that artists know coming out that it's not just playing. It's a job, you have to approach it like it's work. And I think, what you're doing is probably helping young people figure that out.
Well, I'm a firm believer, after doing 120 episodes, that if an emerging artist wants to learn how to do art or be successful in creating art, that all they have to do is listen to this podcast, because we have the experts sitting on the other side of the table, right? So to speak. And everybody does it a little differently, as Todd has said, and it's not right or wrong, but they find it. And if you just listen and pick out the cherries that fit for you, you can be successful. And this isn't a pat on our back. We're not the experts. You guys are.
But it is. You are too. Yeah. But you're making a platform for that. Yeah. And I would never assume that I'm doing everything right by any means, but it's working.
Yeah.
And I love it. And if you love what you do, you should be able to make a living doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always, and I've said this before, I gave myself the biggest con job in my life because I love photography since I was a little kid. For 50 some years, I convinced myself that I don't want to be a photographer because I'm afraid it's going to take the fun out of it. What a con job. It was just like, and now I'm 60 and I'm looking back, it's like, I wasted,
What was I thinking? Yeah,
like
right.
I could have been.
You want to sit at a desk and do this as a hobby at the night when you're too tired? Yeah,
right.
No. I had a niece actually say exactly that to me. And I said, do you know who you're talking to? Like, that's the antithesis of, yeah.
But, you know, we buy in this whole idea that art should be a secondary thing. Go get a degree in something else. And, you know, something that you can fall back on. That art doesn't really, you can't make any money. And it's such a con job that we've bought into. And I specifically bought into that I was going to ruin the fun out of being a photographer if I made it a business. What a joke.
Now you know it's never too late.
It's never too late.
There you go. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. But yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. The reputation is backwards. It's really backwards because they used to hold art and architecture in such high regard in history. Those were the smartest guys, you know, the Michelangelos and the Da Vinci's. Those are the smartest guys. Those are the most revered guys for a good reason. You know, creatives are thinkers. They don't have to be able to draw, but creatives are really coming at all of the problems from a very unique perspective. And, you know, that's when interesting things happen. And it should be, it's kind of lost its value. And I think it's sort of, now it's really bizarre because the pendulum's swinging in such crazy ways that it's not lost its value because insane stuff selling for $30 million. So it's gained a lot of value, but the inherent thought of it is a little convoluted at the moment.
Yeah, it's a bit skewed for sure.
It's a bit skewed, and some of it's great, and some of it's just the way it is right now. But it's a fascinating dialogue to have, of course.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a different time.
Yeah,
and money, at least in America, definitely rules the roost. And if you're a good salesperson, you don't have to be a great artist, but if you're a great salesperson and you get the right people to buy into what you're selling, you know, you could be making bank. You could be a rich artist.
Even if you're terrible.
Right. And I was just going to follow it up with that. It doesn't mean that you're a great artist, but I've known in my career, I've known plenty of people that were very successful, but they weren't necessarily like
the greatest. Yeah.
The greatest, you know,
right.
But you can't knock that. I don't knock.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
I think in my youth, I knocked it. I don't knock it anymore. I'm like, more power to you. If you were able to sell it, and
if you can
close
sell
the deal,
nails, have at it. I think it's all fair. Of course, you guys have seen Blurred Lines and The Price of Everything, right? If you haven't, oh yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. And when the big banks get involved, that's a whole nother animal. And you know, who decides who's worthy? I still don't know how to break that down. But it's such an interesting profession because you can come at it from all different ways. It's fascinating in all its iterations. It's fascinating. And there's people just doing amazing things everywhere. It makes it kind of fun to watch.
It really does.
And try to figure out where you fit in when you're somebody like me. You know, just keep sort of meandering along and hoping everything's going the way you want it to. But it is really interesting.
Well, and that's what excites me about your work because, and we've talked about this before, but I like to see a person that is exploring materials and exploring ideas and concepts all the time. I don't want to see the same thing over and over again. You know, when I show up to a gallery opening and it's somebody I know, if it's, you know, it just doesn't jazz me when it's the same thing that I saw the 2 times previous. I want to see that there's some evolution going on and that there's something that continually, you know, they're really engaging me.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. It's fun to be able to give yourself license to do that. I think it might not be the most great idea, but I don't know. I can't say that it isn't. I couldn't do it any other way. I can't I can't do the same thing twice in a row. I think that's part of a creative mind. Maynard Tischler was the dean of the DU art school when I was teaching there, and he lectured to all of the kids and said, creatives will always, be the one doing it the other way. If everybody goes to the coffee thing at 11 o'clock in the office, you'll be there at 11:30 or 10, but you won't be there at 11 because that's what everybody else does. And that's not interesting enough. You'll create problems for yourself because that's what's so much more fun, and I like seeing more artists doing that and being allowed to. For the first time, I had both of my galleries let me show all kinds of crazy disparate stuff. And it was really, really wonderful because they usually like some consistency. They know how to sell it, but it's changing, and that's kind of beautiful.
And did you still sell and it was still well received? Yeah. I mean, I think there's appreciation there. I mean, I think about some of the, I think about music and the people that really resonate with me that never seem to be, they don't do the same thing, like you were saying, all the time, over and over again.
Right.
Another Canadian, Neil Young, is one of those people. Neil is one of those persons always exploring and thinking outside the box and not even giving a second thought about what people are going to think about it. He's just following the muse and doing what he feels like he wants to do at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the way to go. Picasso and Herbert Bayer and whoever you want to look at, the really great things that lasted in history was because they were following their own muse. They weren't doing what was expected. Not for the purpose of not doing what's expected, but just because you have to go the way you have to go. And it's so fascinating. It will keep teaching you. And if you can't keep learning, then what's the point, right?
Exactly. If you're not pushing yourself and making yourself feel a little uncomfortable, that's when you know that there's growth, right? When you're kind of pushing yourself, putting yourself out there.
Figure out our stuff. And really the figuring out is the process. I don't think there's an answer because every answer leads you to more figuring out, right?
Right.
Yeah. And that isn't that why maybe that's why we're here.
I think so. Yeah.
I think so too. Yeah. I kind of believe that. I think as soon as we become habitually complacent in anything, we're losing time.
Right.
That's it. And time is the most precious thing we have. So
it is. And people.
Absolutely.
Time and people. If you keep that in mind, you will be happy. We got to take the time for the people.
What would you say some of the other skills that you had or developed as a graphic designer and running your own business? What else was really important or helpful in becoming a fine artist and taking off in this career in sculpture?
Probably communication with clients, because as a designer, you're always presenting maybe a multitude of solutions to a problem. And I think that audience or the practice of having an audience and having to present your work is really bigger than doing it in school. It's not like a critique in the art school. It's actually clients, and they're paying you or they're not, and you are trying to solve a problem not just with what you've created, but to be able to put it into words, which is very difficult for a lot of us because we create with pictures, right? We explain ourselves. That's how I learn about myself. That's how I solve my problems through art. But to be able to put it into words so that somebody else can understand it and wants to buy in is, of course, a great skill to have. So I think because I had clients and design and all that under my belt, it probably helped. I still find it really tricky to talk about art, not art so much, but myself. I think that's tough. But selling the art, that's easy.
That's the easy part, right?
Yeah. Selling yourself is hard. You don't want to talk about yourself.
Do you think having those communication skills from running your own business and having to meet with clients and communicate and then having deadlines, do you think that really kind of helped you and maybe even gave you a leg up in the fine art world when you were starting to do commissions, as far as being able to put it all together?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because, as soon as you have a business and you have a client, you do have a deadline and a budget, you never screw that up if at all possible. So I know, and I was so surprised to hear it from different fabricators that artists go back to the client and say, I can't get it done in the budget. And I'm like, what? Really? You can't do that. You have to bid it so that you can, so that there's a little cushion, or you just don't do that. That's like not paying back your debts. So yeah, I think it teaches you a lot to have the responsibility of a business and a reputation, that you pay your bills, you come in under budget, on time, if at all possible, and stuff happens sometimes, but yeah, that's a learning curve that is invaluable as an artist. It's not lackadaisical at all. It comes back to you in spades, because if you are responsible and cross all the T's and dot all the I's and make it easy for the client, then they'll want you to do more. And that's happened. And it's a beautiful thing. Even the construction guys, are the first Vail project I had, the GC on the project said, the next pile of money you have, you give it to her, because I want to work with her again. And I was just so honored, because every time he called me, I was like, no, I got that. It's okay. You're good. And he was surprised, because a lot of artists kind of don't go in making sure they have it all lined up. And then they count on other people to pick up the pieces. And if you can avoid that, it's better.
It's more professional. And like you said, I think a lot of artists play it kind of loose, right? Especially if you're not experienced, but having that professionalism, I think, goes a long ways. Right.
And I think you can get it even if you're a novice at it, you just ask all the questions before you say, I got, or you can always say, I got this, but then you do all the legwork and you go read the book to make sure that you do have it. It's true. But yeah, that was a long answer to your question. Sorry.
No, it's all good. So as you started your career in sculpture, you were able to get in with some galleries from the get-go, or did that take a little while?
No, I got a small body of work together and decided the only way I can drop design is if I get into galleries. And if I get into a gallery, this is done deal. So I got in the car and put stuff in the back of the car, and I drove until I had 2 galleries.
So that was the goal?
That was the goal. I set out the weekend. I think it was like Thanksgiving weekend. And I decided I'm going to just go to all the galleries that I think are cool, starting in Denver and ending up in Aspen. And if I don't come home with anything, then I probably need to keep doing design. But I scored, so it's all good.
That's a little bit of pressure to put John, but obviously you
challenge. It's not pressure. It's a challenge. It's like any competition, right? You got to win.
But you found that when you were reliant on galleries to make the money, to do the sales part of it, it was a little unnerving.
Yeah, for me.
So that's why you transitioned into doing these commissions and going after public art.
Yes, exactly. Not to diss any galleries at all. Galleries are amazing, and I have fabulous galleries with and great respect for them. But it's just so, they got 50 artists to feed. I'm not the top of the heap there. They're trying to take care of everybody and their own business. So it is more fun to have a couple different layers of your business. And I run them very specifically like 3 different businesses. I've got monument and commission work as one business, and gallery sales is another business. And for some crazy reason, I decided to start a hardware company. And that's really fun, but I'd rather sell big things for a lot of money than a zillion little things for not so much money. So,
right.
So if you know any great hardware companies that want to license that, I'm going to give them molds over to somebody and have them do the sales. I want to just do the designs. I've got 1,000 things in my head that I want to do in the way of hardware, but I just don't want to deal with it.
Well, I definitely want to talk about the hardware here in just a moment. But I want to get back to the commission part of it. Like, at what point did you just say, I'm just going to go after public art? Did you know that there was money to be made there, or did it kind of slowly come to fruition that, hey, this is something that some sculptors do, and it seems like a good gig, and maybe I should go after some public art?
That was pretty early. I think I put that in my head in 2008 when public art wasn't such a thing, but it was definitely here. I was less familiar with it than I was determined to have a client and a deadline and a certain budget, which came from the design work. I liked going and getting my jobs and then making them happen. And that was what drew me to getting commissioned work. And I don't even, well, literally, well, I know it was 2008 when I wrote that down because it was the same year that this is embarrassing, but I watched The Secret and remember the chicken soup guy, he put the 5 and there are the zeros behind the $5 bill and made it $500,000. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
No.
The Secret, yeah, you remembered. Wes remembers.
Yeah.
So that literally that happened. Literally that happened. And that was when I started to believe that, yes, we are the keepers of our own flame. So I my kids did it with me. I made them watch that movie. They were little. Let's do that, Mom. We stuck the $500,000 $5 bill to my dad's portrait in the garage where I was doing all my work. And I was like, I'm going to do this public art thing. And the first one I got was, there you go. So then I am a believer, right? You put it out there. Jim Carrey, he put that $1 million check in his wallet and he's the $1 million actor, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was a lot of things, but back to your question, I didn't know public art was such a viable option. I just knew I wanted clients that were telling me this is what we're interested in. I didn't want to do what anybody else wanted me to do, which is still a little bit of a certain category of public art. I don't want somebody to tell me what to do. That's why you see on my website, I do stuff that I'm crazy about. And then I find the client who wants that, which is a little backwards to the way a lot of the public art works because they want to think it's bespoke, but it is bespoke because when I think airport, I think of all this crazy stuff that belongs in an airport. I don't know what airport it's going to be yet. Necessarily, but conceptually, that makes me think a certain way. And it might not look like anything else I've done. So I can't do that on a whim. I think about this stuff all the time and I just make it because I think it's cool. And then theoretically somebody says, those basketball players make them 22 feet tall. That's the best because it's what I wanted to do. It's the basketball player I wanted to do, or it's the piece that I was really, really passionate about. And then it's better because it wasn't your idea. It came from in here. And that's really fun.
And it's the same secret principle. The principle of The Secret is you're creating this sculpture and you're putting it out there and somebody's going to pick it up as a commission piece.
Yeah.
And they're going to make it 22 feet tall.
Yeah. Hope anyway. Yeah.
Right.
That's the
idea. I mean, it's the same principle. You're just putting it out there.
You got to do what you love. And then it all seems to fall into place as long as you don't lose focus that's possible. Sometimes it gets a little dicey, but yeah, it's really more fulfilling to be. That's the difference between design and art. And that is why I leaped into that void. Then I didn't want to be doing solving somebody else's problem or thought or concept anymore. I wanted to be doing all the concepts I'm so wildly interested in. What does that situation make me feel, make me experience? And that's another thing I think about the evolution of creators. Early in the game, you start by looking out there to see what you should do. And then eventually that all turns into something very internal and you don't need to look out there at all. There is so much that you have going on to say as you get older, you've got all this experience that you just have to dissect and look at and understand better. And that's the stuff that that I want to make art about. I want to see, why does that feel so wild? And what is that? And what does it look like? Not literally, but, way in the recesses of the cracks and crevices, what is that connection to God? Or what is that sensual feeling? Or what is that total lost on the edge of going off a cliff because you're hurling yourself down a mountain? It's not what it looks like really at all, which I say over and over. It is trying to capture the essence of something and dissect it and put it back together in a way that other people will be able to go there again. And that's really important to me. That's fun.
Was that transition from doing your own, what you envisioned, to doing a public art piece and doing it on a much larger scale? Obviously, it's your vision still, or you're working within, loose parameters, but it's your vision. Was it scary to do that first public art piece?
No, it was really invigorating, because the very first one I did was the Edge, the big ski racer in Vail. And I know what it feels like to be scared on skis, but be competing and know how to ski. It's all those things that come together. And that was watching, when you watch racers and how you work a ski. Skis are actually made to accelerate you, not slow you down. A lot of people have that wrong in their heads, but if you know the mechanics and know how much you can accelerate out of a turn and what's happening and that teetering edge of winning or disaster, to capture that, because that's where all the adrenaline comes together, right? To capture that is what was important to me in that piece, and try to make the surfaces agitated and yet fluid, and try to capture what that feels like. Not that I can ski like any of the greats, but I was watching them and I can relate. That's why we watch sports, right? Because you might not be the best basketball player, but you can still get totally geeked out about the moves that they're making, because we can all sort of relate. And so if you can make art in whatever subject matter that puts people in that position again, it's almost like going to the movies or whatever. I want to feel that. I want to go back there. I want to be able to understand what is so cool about that moment of adrenaline that makes all that thing disappear, like we talked about with the source or zone or dropping in. And that's in any of the different various weird art that I'm doing. Some of it is just a connection with somebody. If you're talking to somebody, and it's another whole level. How do you express that in a piece of art? Not literally, but viscerally.
And you do that, and I heard you speak about it through gesture.
Yeah, through a lot of things. And I think gesture and line and shape and form and design and all that stuff, but more importantly, because it's so personal, it's sort of like one of the men that I know that's involved with Notre Dame said, "Your blood is in the bricks," which means like in the olden days when the people were making churches, they were making something for God. And that's why those churches are so moving when you go in. Not only is the craft amazing and the light amazing and the windows and the art and the detailing, but there is a deeper essence of their blood being in the bricks. They cared so deeply about what they were doing. They felt it so viscerally that it became more than what it is. And that's the stuff, I think, that's hard to explain, and it sounds so out there, but I think that's where the real connection to making art comes in, because you really want to feel the feeling again, or the whole time you're making it or whatever. That's makes you go away. If you're in pain and you can paint what that pain feels like, somebody else will feel it, even if it says nothing, if it's completely abstract. If you can paint if you can pour your feelings into that paint, then that's what makes the painting better, or something else.
Yeah.
This piece, The Edge in Vail, once you accomplished that and finished it and people love it, was it pretty easy to build on that and get other public art commissions after doing that first one?
It happened. I had great galleries. I had galleries involved in getting other commissions. And fortunately for me, a lot of them were things that I already did, like the basketball players. That was one of my sculptures. I didn't do it for them. I did it. That they said made it 22 feet big. That was because of my gallery in Vail. So was this. They put me on the table and said, this is what you need here, even though they were looking at really famous artists at the time. But what it was talking about and how it spoke to them was more important than getting a famous artist. So I kind of jumped into the ring because of a gallery, which is why I dearly love my galleries. But then from then on, that bandwidth made it more possible for me to get other commissions. I pigeonholed myself a little bit, which I'm breaking out of now, but because I love sports and I do sports really well, then sort of all everybody thinks you do is sports. And even though I still love and will always do sports, there's a bunch of other stuff that I'm really interested in. And sports is just one of those that's a little lighter heart, right? So it's easier to go there. When I get into the really heady stuff, really personal stuff, that's, it's like, you can't play the sad, deep music all the time. Sometimes you got to go to the rock and roll. And so you gotta, you gotta dance around just to keep your sanity.
Yeah.
But all that other insane stuff is sort of on the table, and I haven't manifest any of it big yet, but I will somewhere along the line. I've been done installations and what have you, but I'm shooting for some. I love the concept of airport art because some of it to me is just too visual. It's beautiful and it will lighten the place and the space. But I like things that make you think that you want to come back and look at again, not just because it's beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with stuff that's just beautiful, but I like people that like want to think about stuff. Like you can't let it go because you keep on learning something new, or you relate to it in some way that makes you laugh or feel like you've connected with somebody else who felt like that too. Reminded you. Yeah, it's fun.
You've mentioned it twice now, this airplane or airport art. So let's talk about this since we keep coming back to the subject. And I love this part of your website. So if you go to Gail's website and you click on Epic Ideas, you can see some of what's going on, what you're thinking about, and what you would like to come to fruition, right? Some of these ideas. And one of these is this airport art. There's a section here, this chain of command. This is what we're talking about that you'd love to see somewhere.
That's one of them. Yeah. And I love that. I think it's hilarious.
It's so
not
cool.
Like anything else I've done.
It's very whimsical. I love it. I would much rather see this sculpture as I'm driving into DIA than Blucifer. I always feel like when I see Blucifer, this might be the last time. I don't have a really good feeling per se. And I always wonder what people that are traveling in and out of DIA when they see that sculpture. I mean, I'm not knocking it. It's, as I say that, I think it is pretty spectacular, but it's pretty ominous too. And when I go on a flight, I don't have a huge fear of flying, but I don't always embrace it maybe as much as I could. I want something that's going to make me feel good and be excited about going somewhere. And this sculpture that I'm looking at, this chain of command, it has that feeling. Like I'm happy when I look at it.
I think we can all kind of relate to that. It has so many subtle insanities to it. And I love the mouse. I just think the mouse is hysterical. But this was just something that was in my brain, like all this other stuff that I had to do. And it was a very, very fun experiment to play with different mediums, because as you know, I usually sculpt in clay, and I did sculpt 3 of the things in clay. And then I thought, but I really want to do this in planes of cut metal. And so you have to do that as a digital rendering. So then I did all these drawings and took it to a digital renderer, because I also took classes in digital rendering and realized that most people do sort of experiments to come up with, like you scan something in and then you make planes out of it. I wanted to actually draw these things in there, and that would have taken me years to learn how to digitally manifest them. So I hired somebody who is actually a really amazing Marauder Films did the digital renderings from all my drawings. And they did a spectacular job. These guys do work for George Lucas and what have you. And that was fun in itself because it was a whole new learning curve of a whole new medium to produce and manifest in multiple ways. So you could do this in high density foam, but it's a digital file, right? Or you could, the way these files work, you could explode it and it all makes itself lay out on a form. You punch cut it and then snap bend all the metal and weld it all back together. There's a lot of welds and there's lots of different ways that it could happen. But this was done because of DIA, but I didn't get on the dance floor, unfortunately, because my portfolio is a lot of sports. So that doesn't make sense because you'd never expect this to come from me. Right. So, yeah. So that's an interesting sort of hurdle that I'm getting over right now, because you got to get on the dance floor, and to get on the dance floor, you got to show a portfolio, and to show a portfolio, it's got to be the monumental art. So there's a little bit of what comes first, the card. But anyway, it's going to be at an airport. We just don't know which one. I got another one in the hopper now that I'm waiting to hear from. So
well, good luck.
We're hoping. We'll see.
And I didn't even think about that. You start to become known for certain things, and that's all people. It's weird how people's minds work sometimes, but you kind of get pigeonholed in that, genre of whatever.
Right. Yes.
And they can't think, even though they have the mock-ups, the maquettes or whatever.
But they never get to see that unless you get on the dance floor.
Right.
Yeah. So, but this will get there because it's just too funny to not. Somebody's going to see it.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Or a sculpture park. Sculpture parks would be really cool too. Because families go there, and it's funny because the little boy's giving dad the thumbs up, but he's yanking the little girl's hair. And it's just so about, all the idiosyncrasies of these creatures, how the fathers work, how the kids work, how the dogs, dogs will chase cats, cats will chase mice. It just makes me laugh. It's a little Dr. Seussy for sure, but it still has all the things that I like, movement and a little bit of conceptual reading into everybody's ways. Yeah.
So did this idea come to you in one like short piece, or is this something that took time and kind of developed over time?
No, it actually was a very old, I was at a museum, and there was an sort of antiquity pot that had dogs chasing like a sort of a almost Egyptian-esque dog chasing itself all around a pot. And it was beautiful. And it made me think of that dog. And I started the sketch, and then my head went Dr. Seuss off on some wild tangent, and it turned into a whole thing that I called Chain of Command because it just started to make me laugh. And it was a serious piece, but it was beautiful. And it it just happened in a sketch. And then the sketch turned into a sculpture. I did the man first, who was a lot like a little drawing that I did for a weather calendar. He was running on top of umbrellas, and it was raining on everybody else, sort of thing. So I think everything feeds into everything else. And that was like you said, it's all in there, and it just comes spilling out if you open the door once in a while.
Sometimes you got to find the door first. That seems to be my problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So do everything that you produce, all your sculptures and the mixed media stuff that you do, does it all start out typically as a sketch?
Yeah, usually it does. I have sketchbooks. Sometimes they're just in my head and I go straight to, if I look around here, no, most of it started as a sketch. And I wish I'd been more diligent in organizing my sketchbooks, because I will draw anywhere. I'll draw on foolscap on napkins, and sometimes in the back of the book. Sometimes I start in the middle of the book, and then I just looked at some other display, and they're all notated and dated. I don't even know when I do some of this stuff. And sometimes I look at the sketchbook and I'm like, when did I do that drawing? I don't even remember that. But some of that stuff is really fascinating. My kids, I've mentioned this in another, somebody else asked me, going off on a tangent, but my kids gave me the coolest gift. They gave me a sketchbook, and there was a prompt on every page that was very heady, like enlightenment and disturbed and, death and love and all these just really intangible concepts. And it was a sketchbook, and I was tasked with drawing on every page based on their prompts. And I just thought it was the coolest gift, because many interesting experiments came of that sketchbook. And I'm not done, because some of them are so hard. But boy, does it make your head explode.
I bet. Yeah. Because those concepts are pretty, like you said, heady, pretty deep. And
how do you draw that?
Right. How do you make that a two-dimensional piece of communication? Right.
Happy, draw a smiley face. No, that doesn't work. Okay. Now draw suppression, or it's a really cool book, which, my kids are thinkers. They're amazing, actually.
That's funny. Yeah.
How often do you go back and look at these sketchbooks that you filled up for either to see what you've done previous, or just kind of, do you flip through them to see if there's any ideas that really kind of spark your interest that you hadn't visited them in a while?
I have so many things that I'm trying to get done that I don't need to go looking for stuff.
Okay.
But they're always all there, most of them. But once in a while, I don't know, every 6 months or so, I open a book that I hadn't looked at for a while and get surprised. And then it'll take me probably in a different direction to do more drawings. There's things hanging on the wall. I've got Asana. Oh my God, I started putting stuff in Asana, and there's the on hold idea list that's just infinite. So I have to live a very long time.
You need the 48-hour day.
I need the 48-hour day. I think I also need to live till I'm 200 to get them all done.
So we're all of the age, and not to date you or anything, but we're all of the age now that our mortality is in the forefront. Well, I'll speak for myself. I'm of the age that my mortality is in the forefront, even
Wes,
because I keep getting.
It's all a state of mind. It's all a state of mind, darling.
But do you ever think about, son of a gun, I need more time?
Yes, every day I do.
It doesn't necessarily stress me out, but it stresses me out a little bit. Like I want to live a hell of a lot longer than I'm probably destined to do. But
isn't it weird that it just seems to be accelerating?
Yeah. It's all perspective, right? Because when you're 3, everything was like, oh, well, that wasn't very long.
But see, now here, I challenge you to wrap your head around that in a different way. Like if as they say, our words and our thoughts create our reality. If we wake up and think, I have so much time today, will that change how the day goes down?
Yeah.
Right? So we have to do that. We have to remind ourselves to do that. Not that I'm good at it, because I usually wake up in the middle of the night watching all the bugs kick around all the balls that were supposed to be in the air, and stressing about how many I've dropped. But I'm trying to go there more often.
Yeah. It is a state of mind, though. You're right. It's all about attitude.
Yeah. So many things.
But it doesn't sound to me like you dwell on it too much. Like you have so much stuff going on that
you don't have time.
You don't have time to dwell on that. So you're probably, do you even think much about legacy? I mean, you've created these beautiful masterpieces that are in, different geographic places across the United States. And those will be here for a long, long time.
Yeah. Once in a while, I pinch myself about that. It's pretty cool because without trying to sound ridiculous, because I think they're pretty good. It hurts me more, or the legacy thought hurts me more when I see something that's permanent, that's shitty. But that's not my stuff. But I don't go into that thought very often. But people remind me of it, and that's kind of beautiful.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's damn good work, Gail.
Thank you.
It really is. It really is.
It's pretty special. I'm pretty honored for sure.
New Magazine is our media sponsor for the Tenet podcast. That's NUE. You can follow both the national and the Denver edition of New Magazine on Instagram. The national edition can be found at new_magazine and the Denver edition at new_Denver_magazine. Look to new for compelling stories from the world of art and fashion. Thanks for listening.
I'm Gail Folwell, and you're listening to the Tenet Podcast.
I want to talk about another piece that kind of resonates with me because of things I've been thinking about and things I've watched lately. But it's, again, in that epic ideas section. And I'm happy to talk about any of these in here because I think they're all magnificent. But this one really kind of hit home for me. And that's this Wit's End.
Oh, isn't that cool?
Oh, man.
It breaks my heart actually to think about it because I was prompted by a gentleman who was retiring and wanted to start sculpting. He'd been watching my work. He's not a collector. He called me to talk about sculpture and said, I don't have a way to do this or whatever, but he had a situation where his son went to jail for a reason that was kind of unfair because he was young and he didn't hurt anybody, didn't do anything. He was stupid enough to look at some photographs and the whole thing went down and they all got put in jail and threw away the key. The kid had been in there for 6 years. He made a mistake. He was a kid. He didn't hurt anybody. He was in his room. He was looking at photos that he shouldn't have been looking at. Stupid, but it ruined their family. It destroyed their lives. He was a big deal lawyer. I have since lost track of him. His email changed. I can't get a hold of him. But he prompted me because he said he liked the way I thought and he liked the way I worked. And he challenged me or asked me, what would you do with this thought of people that get put in jail that have no hope? And just the thought of having no hope, like having them throw away the key and you can't do anything about it now, like that's just so unfathomable, especially when, as we know, people go to jail that shouldn't. And that is the piece that came out of his conversation. I haven't been able to find him, but I have gone on and I'm talking to my folks, not my, the people that work with me, one of my galleries in particular, to see if we can get through to maybe like the Ford Foundation, who deals with jeopardized populations and something like that, because I would love it to be a data and information gathering installation where if that was a traveling exhibit, and it would be really easy to do because engineering wise, you could cable that in a lot of different places. It's just kind of arresting. And I wanted it to be with a skew that you could scan and promote, social media and on street level and on building fronts where people could either give us their story or hear other people's stories in that vein. And with that data, hopefully we could create change and change the legal system that sometimes is broken. Sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's broken. But that man made a very good case for me that actually just really broke my heart for him and his family and makes that kind of art come up. And that's the stuff that, oh God, I that's really, as sad as it is, the stuff that is really great to be able to think about.
You could actually facilitate some change by having the conversation, some dialogue with art.
Yeah. I am not the best at cold calling or sales, so I'm trying to find other people who will do that for me. But that's the kind of stuff I like.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the story that I don't know if you've been following the story. About a year ago, a gentleman, his name was Cosley Green, was released from prison for a murder that he didn't commit. He maintained his innocence through all this time. He spent years and years in prison, and they released him, and now the state is going after him again. So the appeals committee may put him back in prison, and he's 60 some years old and with his family. And I can't imagine having that moment of freedom and then
having it taken away again
and have it taken right away again. It's very similar to what you were talking about with the young gentleman that, in the moment wasn't thinking of the legalities of it and totally lost his life as far as,
Right. Yeah. That just seems like another one of those stories. Like that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Those of us who can't wrap our heads around that. And I'm sure they're all doing the best they can in the legal system, but sometimes the collateral damage. Like this kid was collateral damage.
Yeah.
The bad guys went down, but everybody else went down too. And
Right.
he was just a stupid kid.
Yeah.
And
Right. Making bad choices.
Yeah. Stupid kid making bad choices. And, I think that's the kind of thing that can be rehabilitated or negotiated or something, but to decimate a young man's life, like forever, 20 years when you're 18, that's pretty much forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyhow, yeah, I'd like to see some of that. I'd love to see this piece happen. Actually went, how public, well, I hope it goes viral, but yeah, I went and took pictures of the Ford Foundation. So the next picture you'll see up here, I might just guerrilla marketing, put it in front of the wall at the Ford Foundation. This is a beautiful building and they have a perfect place. It would be really cool in New York. I don't even know where I lifted that picture from somewhere, which is a terrible thing to do, but yeah. It was a perfect street to put him in.
Yeah.
I love this concept. It resonates with me. I think I just got done watching the TV series Orange is the New Black.
Oh yeah.
And it's supposed to be entertaining, but it also brought up a lot of issues that I'd never thought about. That, wow, there's this whole group of people that are stuck in this system, and it's referred to as an industry. And we're talking about human beings,
Humans.
right? I think anytime you're referring something with people as an industry, there's something wrong with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they through the process of this whole TV series, I actually found myself getting really depressed to think about that. There's people that, like this guy's son, that have absolutely zero control. All the control is taken away from them. And people that, that start off, with some strikes against them early in their life, whether it be poverty or growing up in a, terrible situation, whatever it may be, that they get stuck into this system and this cycle, and they don't ever get to break out of it. And how dismal and depressing that must be. I just can't even imagine. And so it really got me thinking about this subject. So when I saw this, I thought, oh my goodness, how amazing would this be to tell the stories of people and to engage people. Yeah.
And it's so possible now, on your phone, you could ring a number and pick A or B, talk or listen. And it would be just, I'm so glad you went that deep into that. Thank you. I'm flattered and honored. I'm glad you looked so carefully. I guess I should expect that because you're here, but that's so great that you felt you're feeling me.
I definitely feel you. And I would love to see this, like I said, happen.
If you know anybody.
You know what? I love connecting people. So if I get if the right opportunity is put in front of me, I will say, you need to call Gail right now.
Awesome.
What other ideas in this epic ideas section of your website are you really jazzed about? Let's talk about one more that really resonates with you. Obviously they all resonate, but something that, you really definitely would like to see happen.
Well, the other one I keep coming back to is the Project XOX.
So I'm glad you did that because I wanted to talk about that one. So
it's up. I think
happy.
Go up.
It's at the top. Well, pretty close to the top, Todd.
Yeah. Oh, and I love
there we go.
There we go.
Too. The Human Lumen brainstorm is, that's big to me too. But this one is just so beautiful on so many levels. I love bodies, as you can imagine. And I have always just been enamored by people's profiles because they're so different, all the different cultures and our noses and our head shapes and our ears. I just think people are cool looking. And so even before COVID happened, I had an idea, and it was for an airport. I wanted to do this pinwheel of cut silhouette heads, silhouetted sideways, blowing a kiss to each other. And it was just being cut out of colored plex. And when they spun in this two wheels that are going in opposite directions, they would cross each other and the rainbows would happen, right? So if you had yellow crossing red, it would make orange and all that kind of thing. So all these different silhouettes of people blowing kisses. But then I started taking pictures to do that sketch or to try to make a model of it. that would have been like this giant clock on a wall in an airport in my mind. And then the profile pictures were just too gorgeous to turn into silhouettes. The people were just too beautiful to lose that little bit of detail. So I started thinking about, okay, how can I do this in photographic form? And I'm not a photographer. God bless you guys. It's hard. I'm good at Photoshop though. I started collecting pictures of people doing what I wanted them to do, stretch your neck out like you're really reaching out to blow a kiss to somebody for the purpose of the diversity and the beauty of the planet, to talk about how come everybody can look at another human and hate on anybody. It's just so unfathomable. Like, how can you do that? You don't know them. You don't care about them. They're just like you. And it was an airport situation that I was thinking, I mean, we're take all these people, we're having humanity cross in this space. How do I show that we should all love each other, as contrived as that sounds? So this is what came out of it. And when I started doing the pictures and turning them black and white, then I decided, because I had this wonderful studio in Boulder, and Dallas was the photographer, and his studio is where this was hanging. I started experimenting, printed them on plates, installed this whole thing that you could walk through and be in the middle of all these people regarding each other that way. So as the heads spin in the ambient movement of the air, everybody's lips are at the midpoint, and they're right about where your head level is. So they're either blowing kisses to you or each other. And there's all the different cultures and all the different attitudes, and men and women. It's everybody regarding everybody with love. And I think the concept is cool. Simple as that. So the idea then grew into, what if this was a traveling exhibit in spaces where people could go walk through it? Because as one of the people who attended said, this is so peaceful, which was really beautiful. And by the time I hung it, it was right when the whole presidential speech, Amanda Gorman said her speech talking about the same thing. How are we regarding each other? How do we disseminate this information of caring? And I just thought it'd be cool to have a place where this was traveling and gathering other people who will do this pose, let us capture their picture, and add to this massive collection of humanity with burqas and the different headdresses and from different cultures and all over the world, and just keep building on it, and have other artists take it on in their medium, so we can project it onto buildings, and we can put it on bumper stickers, and we can print it in the bottom of kids' shoes so that they walk down the sand and they have these blowing kiss heads. Because it's kind of like the silly smiley face, have a good day. If you saw somebody doing that and it became a thing, you would know, and you could say, hey, I did that. I contributed. I regard everybody with love. I'm in, if everybody wanted to be, I'm in, I'm going to do that. I'm committing to not being a shithead to anybody in the world, to thinking positively about humanity. And it would be I wanted it to be kind of like a pick up and spin and roll and pick up people as we go, and all the different mediums. It could be however anybody else wants to grasp this concept. If we could just spread it and all artists start doing it. Banksy starts painting people blowing kisses on the side of the wall. Banksy's a woman, by the way, in my
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
I decided, yes, I think Banksy's a woman.
Might be.
But anyway, yeah, that's where that came from. This is Project XOX. I don't know where it's going. I mean, I've got a couple things going where I might be able to do a small installation for privately, but the whole thing I have to figure out. That's that thing again. If you meet the right person, put in a good word for me.
I feel like these pieces.
Yeah, I do too. Just incredible concept, and I would love to see it.
Yeah,
I'm jealous that I didn't think of it.
Well, you can. Hey, all the details are on my website. Send me your picture.
Okay.
You can be involved.
So are these print? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The big old white beard. Are these printed on acrylic?
They are. They're plate. They're 1-inch thick plate. They're really beautiful because when we shoot light through them, they project full halftones on the floor and on the wall in clarity. It's really was surprisingly more beautiful than I expected it to be, because not only did they project the images in a halftone form because they're see-through, but they blow it up if it's against the back wall. It's like huge. And so my thinking is, if you could capture people as they came in and start projecting them on the walls too, and have them moving towards each other and crossing each other, you'd have just a constant flow of more humanity. And we like looking at ourselves. I think people are interesting, and it's fun to look at faces. So it's an easy like, if you will, because humanity is fascinating, and you can never really get tired of looking at the different cool hairdos and everything else,
Yeah, maybe you should have it. The first place to hang it is in the Kremlin, and let Putin walk through it every day to get to his office.
Can you imagine?
He needs some humanity.
Yeah, maybe we should just mail him all these, and he'd have to open them all up.
There you go. Yeah. But yeah, I love this whole project. This whole idea is just wonderful. Thanks. And the execution of what I've seen is wonderful. Yeah, I love this piece.
Thanks. I'm excited. I stay excited about this stuff. I don't know what to do with it. But yeah, it'll happen somewhere along. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the people who have shared their pictures with me, so pretty.
Yeah, I could definitely see this as a traveling exhibit at museums across the country.
Yeah.
I think the first place it should be is BMOCA. I think it'd be the perfect place for that.
I should talk to David. I know him. It's that selling thing again.
I think the concept
you have to
is so good. I don't think you have to sell it. I think it's so good that it just sells itself. Like who wouldn't want to experience this and see this?
Thanks. All right. Oh, you prompted me.
All right.
Yeah, it's easy for me to like get them out of my system and then turn on to the next thing. This is.
I tell people all the time, I have the greatest ideas in the world. I'm an idea guy all day long. The execution might be the downfall of this whole,
Right.
For me, at least,
the hard part. After the fun part's done, the hard part is that. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm the opposite. I have a hard time coming up with ideas that I think are original, because I get kind of really nervous about recreating other people's stuff, even though I'll see something and I like the idea, but then I'm not an idea guy. And I think that's my problem. If I need to learn how to develop that muscle and it's just being creative, right? Begets being creative.
It is. And you got to figure it's not the same.
Right.
Everybody's vision is different. Plus, your words create your reality. You just have to wake up and say, I'm an idea guy.
There you go. Maybe I see. Okay. I'm going to have to watch The Secret again. I'm going to watch The Secret again this weekend. And,
oh my gosh. It's so funny. I'm
going to make a vision board and
listen to Brian Scott. Brian Scott. He's got a cool podcast.
I didn't know that. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. All good.
Got to create your own reality. There you go.
That's it.
I'm going to meet with a curator friend of ours tomorrow, and I'm going to show her this project.
I love you. Thank you. That'd be great.
You seem very upbeat and positive. How do you stay so optimistic in this time of so much stress and so many things that are going on, from wars to the way people treat each other, the social injustice, the racism, to like climate change and the environmental things that we're going to have to face in the future as a species?
Yeah. So I'm up and happy because I'm talking to two up and happy people. I am an empath, and I definitely get very wounded by the things that I see and experience. And that's why I have to do art, because I have to get that stuff out of me, because it will take me down. So it's training ourselves, right? My brother said to me, "That's why you're an artist, idiot." I said, "It's so hard for me to unsee things that make me so sad." And he's like, "That's why you're an artist, idiot." I was like, "Thanks, big brother," I think. But it's true, I think as a creative, you take things on and you can't let them swirl around in there because you would just jump off a cliff. But believe me, there's some heady art in here that is not that's very personal, that is expressing that stuff that's so painful, that's so sad, that's so, because I feel people's pain. You can never feel that some of that pain is just so beyond fathom that it's like going to somebody that's hurt. You never have the right thing to say, right? But you take it on and you do with it what you can. And if you can learn from it or express something in a piece of art, like, can you see that person carrying that big box on their head? That skinny little Takamedi lady carrying this massive weight on her head. That's the stuff, I'll do that as a little, just a little thing to, oh yeah, okay, I can put that over there now. You have to get it out of your system, and then you have to embrace. I don't like looking back. I do like being aware of what's going on, and some of it's just too so painful that you just can't fathom. And then you do stuff about it. You play the music that way, or you sing the song that way, or you talk to people and you figure out what the good stuff is, and you hopefully disseminate more good stuff to overpower the bad stuff, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to do that, at least you can think that you're doing something right. And you got to put the sad stuff out there too, because if that heals somebody because they know somebody else felt that way, that will do good too.
Yeah. You have to put out the negative stuff too, because like we were talking to an artist and she was very concerned about what she was putting, what she was like a story she was telling us that happened to her. And I was saying, somebody needs to hear your story. And
yes,
that is so important.
That's that whole connection thing. We all need to know that somebody knows what we're going through.
Yeah.
And that's bereaved, right?
Yeah.
People that has connected with have had just wicked stories that they've told me that will make that piece that much more important to me. But yeah, everybody needs company in their misery, and they need to be understood in some way. And we need to look at that, we need to open that book and look at it ourselves, or you get sick, right? You can't just keep letting that stuff fester, because we all go through stuff. Yeah. So you got to figure it out. You got to take it out and look at it. And fortunately, I have this crazy job that lets me actually take it out and look at it and then share it with people. So that's kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's a great vehicle, right?
Yeah, it is. We have, it's a gift to be able to talk to people or connect in ways that you didn't know you were going to
affect people, to
Lucky.
Possibly affect change. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better than that.
I told my kids our family motto is SFL. Can you guess? So lucky. SFL.
I like that.
We all are. We all are.
Yeah, we are. We are. We are so lucky, especially looking at the news these days. Yeah, we're in the right spot at the right time.
Yeah. I mean, even just the three of us sitting down over Zoom, how lucky are we to have this in-depth conversation about your art and about life in general, right?
Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing. And I thank you both. And I have to say, I was really happy that it was a triangle, like you have two of you, because it's like this circle of information. It's not like a ping pong thing, right. But we're having a little round table, and I was really excited because that's fun.
Good. Yeah. We love it. Yeah. We love it too.
It's funny that you mentioned the whole empath thing, because I was actually, this is a question that I had kind of retired Like I told Wes, I'm not asking that question anymore. But so many artists are, I would consider them empaths, or they themselves consider them empaths. So I actually was going to pull that one back out of the mothballs today and ask you, because, reading some of your interviews and seeing some of the YouTube videos and stuff like that, I'm like, she very much feels her way through life and what people are, she's tuned into it. So
That's
I was
the
going to ask
biggest
you that.
compliment ever. Thank you. I do sort of feel my way through.
Yeah,
Then you avoid the people that are bad feelies. Right? I'm starting to learn how to do that better. Run away.
Yeah. Right. As you get older, you figure out, when it's time to make your exit.
Right. Sorry, I started laughing in there. Will you ask me a question about the empath thing?
I was just going to say that, I was going to ask that question, and you kind of, you came out and just said it. So I thought that was pretty fortuitous.
Must have read your mind in there. You were thinking it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, isn't that like what do they say? This Stanislavski technique of method acting.
Mm-hmm.
The actors that are the most amazing actors, they feel their way into the role viscerally till they become that person. Yeah. Right. And they're the most amazing actors. It's the same thing. You have to, and it doesn't happen because you want it to. It kind of is like, you can't help it. It's because we're all one, right? Aren't we all one?
Yeah.
One big collective of energy of something that goes around and around and around. Maybe simultaneously. There could be a bunch of us out here. We just don't know it.
That's right. Well, what's funny was when you mentioned that word, when you said I'm an empath, Todd and I had a mental thing go back and forth to each other. Because I'm the one who gave him a little bit of grief about it, because my whole thing is like, if you ask somebody they're an empath, I don't know anybody who said they aren't an empath. They might ask, what is an empath?
Right,
but they would never decline that they are. I would even think Ted Bundy would say he's an empath. Oh, God. Even though he's a psychopath.
Empath. That's
but anyway, I thought it was so funny when you mentioned that you're an empath. I immediately had this connection with Todd in the second, and it was so much fun. It was beautiful. That's so great. I appreciate that.
Good. You guys have a good thing between you. It's funny.
We do.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, I want to talk about another commission. I want to talk about the Pro Football Hall of Fame commission that you did, which I think is just absolutely amazing. Thanks. But I want to know, what does your typical day look like? What's a typical day for Gail Folwell?
Oh, way too much time on the computer. I'll tell you what, that's my nemesis. But no, I get up. I always meditate. I always stretch. I always pat the dog and walk him. I come to the studio. A lot of the time it's business. A lot of the time it's business, but a lot of the time it's thinking about all this stuff and taking it to the next level. And I've got a lot of projects that are always going. And I go all over the place. I don't really work on one piece until it's finished. I work on a bunch of pieces at the same time. And some of them are digital and some of them are physical. And there's always something in clay happening. But I come to the studio like a normal work day. And then I play on the weekends. And sometimes I never stop thinking about this stuff. I don't think you can. But I work like we all do. Yeah. But I definitely get my meditation, my exercise, and my dogs in. And then I come to work and I surround myself with all this crazy stuff and keep pushing all these different balls forward. And sometimes I get really frustrated because I need more people to do the more computer stuff. And I'm working on that.
Yeah. How many hours a day do you work? Sorry, Todd, I know you were going to ask something.
No, you're fine.
I come in late, but I usually stay late. So I'm like a 10 to 6 or 11 to 6. Not huge, but then I do work before I get here, but it doesn't count because it's like returning emails and stupid stuff.
Yeah.
How much art? Not enough. Never enough art time. Yeah. Never enough art time. It's the hardest part. The part that's the most gratifying, the most fun, but business always seems to be calling me, and I'm definitely like the business of it. So I can't ignore it. I like answering all the questions, doing all the estimates, projecting and researching and figuring out like this new XOX. If I get to do these screen walls for this XOX project for a particular client, I have to know what's the best UV way to do it. What's the plastic that we're using that won't yellow and then who's going to do my welding and what's the frame look like, and designing that will be really fun. So not all of it is arty art, but it's all fun. It's all fun.
It's all creative.
Yeah. Solving all the different problems in one way or another. I think it's kind of it all feeds the same animal. But I like doing it here in my studio because it's cool. There's a lot of stuff haunting me saying, okay, when are you going to get to this?
Quit taunting me.
Quit taunting me.
But the thing about you, I think, that separates you from a lot of other artists is you got the drive. I mean, it's a constant, like, you're driving forward, and that's what sets you apart.
Oh, you think? I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. And I do. I had the studio in Boulder, the same thing. We took myself and another artist that I love. We moved out of a big artist space because nobody was ever there. And we moved to this entrepreneur space where everybody was there all hours. And it was so much more dynamic because entrepreneurs, they're hustling. And those are the people I like to surround myself with. Yeah. Not that I don't love artists, but a lot of artists they're just not that intense that way, and people that are starting their own businesses in sports and athletic people, it was awesome to be surrounded by, a bunch of entrepreneurial spirits, because we'd have roundtables and everybody's interested in everybody else's stuff. And we all just dynamically feed off of each other's buzz. And that's cool. It's a little quiet in here up here sometimes. I don't have a whole tribe yet, but I'm working on it.
Well, I'd love to be your studio assistant.
Anytime.
I don't think my wife will let me, but I would love that.
Anytime. I'd love any studio assistants I can get.
Do you have assistants that you work with?
I had a new person come in. Well, because I just moved up here not that long ago. I've had a couple different people in and out, but I had somebody come in yesterday who was super helpful. I need more, business, executive skill.
Administrative type stuff.
Yeah. Because that stuff takes up so much time to do it well. And you want to do it well because it's the problem. But that stuff is so necessary, and I don't want it to be wrong. And I like writing the letters. I like writing the proposals. But that's all, if I had somebody really great full time, I had some great people in Boulder, but I moved and I like them in my midst. It's hard to work in creative environments when you're far away, although we're doing a good job right here.
We are. I concur. So like most artists, you have multiple projects going on at any given time. Once you get to the studio, do you have an agenda that you're working off of? Are you good at time management, do you think?
Not good enough. But I do, I use Asana. It's, do you know what Asana is? It's a platform for collaborating with all the other people. It's all the schizophrenic people in my head. Like, Gail, you're supposed to do that. But it's a really great visual platform for compartmentalizing all the pieces in production with the bronze foundry, and then all the pieces in production with fabricators. Like, there's some stuff in China and some stuff in California, and then all the marketing things that I've started doing that I'm ignoring completely, that I haven't finished, and then all the the things that I have to respond to, but they're in these like visual cubicles that's really cool. And that helps to bring other, because I've got a guy who does my social media. He's connected in there, so he can get in, and I can put a list of things for Michael and things for Meg, and now things for Jeannie. So yeah, I am pretty anal in stacking, and my biggest problem is I stack a lot of stuff and I don't get around to all of it. But I do have the top of the priority freak out list. The freak out list.
There you go.
So when you said Asana, I was literally thinking, instead of Asana, I was thinking sauna. And I was thinking, oh, she's going to tell me about how she gets in a sauna and it just clears out everything. And then she knows exactly what she's doing for a day. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to purchase a sauna.
They're amazing.
No, that would probably be a good idea, though. I need to sit still more. No, that's the meditation. I slow down first so I can calm down and I can make a strategic short list. That's why I have to do that 10, 20-minute thing in the morning. That this is like, okay, shut up, stop, sit still so that you can get all the zillions out of your head and just maybe put 10 in there. And then it's okay. And then I can freak out again the next night. And then I have to calm down again the next morning.
I think that's perfect. I'm one of these people that if I start looking at the big picture, I just get overwhelmed.
Exactly.
So
That's great. Yeah.
I've learned like you, especially if I'm scattered and I'm not really like focused, 3 things. These are the top 3 things I need to get done today, no matter
remember the
what.
old Franklin planner?
Yeah.
A1, A2, A3. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I went to that class.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I lived with a Franklin for many, many, many years.
So did I. The coolest thing about those were the motivational quotes on the top.
That's right. The Monticello version.
Right. Oh,
I had the Monticello, the blue. Yeah. It's true though.
Yeah.
They always made you think.
They did. It was good. And I still go by that. I remember that guy on that stage, A1, A2. Oh, God, this is good because I have A to Z 1 to 26. But he just gave me a strategy. It still works. I still do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's crazy because even if you have platforms like Asana and all the things in your computer, I still have the piece of paper. In the morning, I have to write my list. Yeah. I have to number it. I have to do those and check them off because that's just so fun.
And they say you connect better if you write it than if you type it.
But it might just be trying to make us feel better because we're
I've tried and I've used Asana and right now I'm using Evernote because I can put PDFs in there and stack of the same kind of deal. But it's more work, huh? What's that?
You can do pictures in Asana. You can drag and drop.
Oh, yeah. I got the free version of Asana, but I was tracking all my projects, and it's a great tool. But
it is, isn't it?
There's something about writing
in a
journal. Yeah. A to-do list.
Yeah. The to-do list. It'll never go away.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep. We're kindred spirits.
I think so.
Oh yeah. You wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, talk about this commission that you did for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This is called NFL Draft 1936. How did all this come about? Kind of walk us through the process of getting this commission, and then, if you would, what it entailed.
Okay, so you just made me a liar because I said almost everything I've ever done has been I just made it, and then somebody asked me to do it big. This is the opposite of that, which is still kind of fun. So this happened because the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio's Arts and Stark, very, very brilliant public art platform in Canton. They put out a national call that they were going to do the 11 greatest moments in pro football history. Try to make this as salient as possible. I can hear my son in my ear. The 11 greatest moments were going to be down the parade route. And it was a collaborative effort to sort of build on the Hall of Fame village so that any age of football players could come and they could go through the whole history of football. And, it's all about Canton, Ohio and football, right? So of the 11 greatest moments, there was a competition to get to be finalist. And oddly enough, there were 3 people from Denver. We are in the sports capital, right? 3 people from Denver were selected and 1 person from Chicago as finalists and to get to a place where you can present your ideas. And they had 11 moments. So we could actually just pick from reading those moments and researching the history and what they were about. I chose, this was one of the things that I presented. And it was about Bert Bell, who was the guy who came up with the NFL draft, which profoundly changed football because the guy, of course, the teams with the money got the best players. And that was the problem. And so those teams were always winning. So he was the guy who came up with the draft. The team that finishes last gets the first pick, and it just sort of leveled the playing field so that the talent would get distributed properly. So he also, what was cool about this guy was he started out as a football player, then he was a coach, then he was an owner, and then he was commissioner. So he kind of wore all the hats, if you will, and it was the 30s. So they all wore fedoras, which I thought was cool. So Hallis looked like Hay, looked like him. Everybody wore a fedora. So everybody, what's fun about this is they think they know who it is, but they might not be right because nobody really knew Burt Bell, because that's kind of a weird moment in history that those other guys were more famous, if you will. So anyhow, it was about him coming up with that. So the story was theoretically in the steps of history, was supposed to demonstrate that this guy came up with the draft, and the first draft pick was for a quarterback. And in my head, having never been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, as you know, everybody has to show up in their jersey, right? And everybody wants to be a quarterback. It's the hero spot. So I wanted, this to me was a cool way to set it up so that he was not only the commissioner, the owner, and the guy who was picking the draft, but he's also part of the team because he really cared about the players and the owners. And that was it was for everybody. It wasn't an us and them, which so often in pro sports it gets to be now with the Canadian hockey players striking and stuff like that. They're not coming together as well as they should sometimes. So I liked that about it. So I wanted to put him in the place of the guy who's doing the snap. And then all these tourists or guys that are coming to visit, they could stand where the quarterback would stand and pretend to be the draft pick, right? And he's going to hand the football off anyway. So to me, in my way to break it down, it's and the four football players are a little oversized because back then they didn't have any equipment on and they were little guys. So they weren't as intimidating as they certainly are now. But so it's sort of all designed to be this in your face moment that's kind of fun and intimidating and puts you on the dance floor with them in the front line or to be the quarterback behind them. So all those things came into play, came up with this idea. It was a budget that couldn't have afforded 5 different sculptures. So because I made the linemen, the guys down on the line with the helmets on are all the same guy 4 times, but that saved a lot in production. So a lot of things go into it. But of the presentation, I flew out there with the sculpture. I wrecked it in transit, but rebuilt it when I got there. And they ended up picking all 3 of us from Colorado instead of one of us to do the first one. And we got to choose our moments. So that was the one I picked.
This was your first choice?
This was my first choice. Yeah. I did another one. It was called Head in the Game. And it's literally, it was, I can't think of the dude's name now, but it was when somebody became commissioner because he was a big deal. But he had literally a football as a head. It was like Head in the Game. I thought it was funny, but it wasn't quite as poignant as this, let's say.
I love this. This is really just fantastic. And it's not just these figures that you had to deal with. You also had to put some design into it because of where it's located, right?
Yeah, I designed the whole, because there's a parking lot behind it, the wall behind it, and the way they wrap the corner. It was sited specifically for the space and the parade route and all, and lighted. And I got to do all that stuff, which is really fun.
So for people that are listening to us talk, if you go to the webpage, you can find this this particular photograph of these figures, but it sits on, a little bit of a stair step kind of podium type of thing. And it has a wall, like a half wall that goes around that separates the actual sculpture from the parking lot, so that just didn't get lost with what's behind it, right?
Right. Yeah. That busyness in the background would have just gotten swallowed up for sure. And you got to make the stage for the social media photograph people world now, right?
Yep.
and it works great. What was most fun about watching that, this was just an absolute really fun project because Arts and Stark did it up right. They did it when at the big ceremony they have every year, and all the football players were there, and the parade went by, and there were kids and people sitting on their shoulders and climbing all over them. It was the coolest thing to see. It was really neat. And the parade goes right down this line, and there's lots of sculptures of different things, but it was fun. And then Roger Goodell actually unveiled it. David Baker was there. I had some football players I didn't expect this kind of crowd. I don't know why. I knew it was that weekend. I just really didn't know quite how big that was. And I was shaking, and I was surrounded by a bunch of football players that saw that I was shaking, and they gave me like a locker room coach pep talk. It was so cool. The whole weekend was just absolutely amazing, fun stuff.
Your speech was great.
Oh, you listened to that?
Oh yeah.
Thanks. That was totally Leonard Pope. He coached me because I was freaking out and tried to do something canned, and I'm not very good at canned. And he said, look at me. I'm in the audience. You can look right at me. And he just made me relax. He said, you got this. You can do this. Nobody else can do this. Don't talk about anybody or thank anybody. Just tell us how the hell did you do that? Anyway, he calmed me down because I was shaking like a leaf. It was
well,
fun.
you would never have known it.
Fake it till you make it, right, darling?
There you go. This sculpture looks really cool at night too. There's photographs of it where it's illuminated, and I love the fact that that was part of the design with the lighting built into the stage that they're on.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, they look ominous, don't they?
They do.
A little scary. I picked the scariest guy I could find back from those days to model the face after. I can't remember his name, but he was like, you wouldn't want to face off with him.
He did look scary because I watched that part of that video where you were flashing the picture that you used for this guy, and yeah, he looked like he was a tough cookie. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, they were doing all that half naked. They didn't have any protection.
Yeah,
right.
They had nothing.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the concussions you would have got back then?
Yeah.
Holy cow. So talk a little bit about the process of this, because that's one thing that we haven't talked about yet. Okay. And because it's such a huge endeavor, because these aren't just cast as one big piece, each one of these figures, they were cast in pieces, right?
Right. And they're welded together, and it's all hollow. It's a 2 mold process so that you can have plates and panels and put them all together in panels. Because if it was solid bronze, it wouldn't cool at the same rate, and that would cause the metal to twist and shear and do weird things. So you make so the nutshell, hard to follow version is you make a clay sculpture. You cut the sculpture apart into palatable pieces for the size of the crucible. Like down in California, where I cast these at Artworks Foundry in Berkeley, they have a 150-pound crucible, so they can pour 150 pounds of bronze at the same time. So if that's only 1/8 inch thick, they can handle a big piece at a time. Smaller ones, you'd have to cut them into lots of pieces. But these guys were essentially, we cut both of their arms off, we cut both their legs off, and did the torso and the head in one big piece, hollow. You mold it that way, though. So you mold it, you put wax in the mold. The wax makes like a hollow chocolate Easter egg type thing in pieces. And then you put that wax sheet that's got vents and gates into ceramic. You make a ceramic shell all around that and all around the circulation. And you dip that in ceramic until it's very stout. And then when that's fired, all that circulation you built into that panel of wax is the place for that 1/8 inch thick wall of wax to escape. And in that same circulation, you then pour bronze, and it dissipates through all that circulation into the plate, into the void that was left by the 1/8 inch thick plate that melted away. And then you smash all that ceramic off, you cut all those sprues and gates off, you weld all the pieces back together, you chase out all the seams to make them look like your fingerprints and everything. And if they're trickier, you have steel inside it. And then, and then you take it to the patina guy. And it's a lot of people. There's a mold maker, a wax pourer, a wax chaser, a metal pourer, a metal chaser, sometimes engineers and steel guys. And after patina, then base. And then we had to get into the drawings and the engineering of all the foundation and how they connect. And there's all kinds of stuff. But yeah, essentially the bronze part of it, it's crazy, beautiful process that takes a lot of people and a lot of time. And that's why bronze is so inherently kind of expensive. But you can do stuff with it that you can't do with anything else. It's really a cool medium.
So from the time that you submitted your work for acceptance to be part of all this to the time you designed and finished the entire project, how long of a time span is that?
I think it was just under a year. I think the steps of the first call went out, then you get on the dance floor, you get to present. That all probably took 3 months. So I think the project, once they said, okay, yeah, go, I think that was probably 8 months, 9 months. Not just me, but the foundry takes every one of those steps once, 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks. The mold maker needs a month, lots of pieces. So I think any big bronze piece is going to take 8 months anyway, sometimes a year. I think this one took about 8 or 9 months.
That's way faster than I thought you were going to tell me.
That's from because I presented the design was done, small, but done. Pointing it up and getting it to the table, 8 or 9 months, assuming you've already got your design.
So you're not only an artist, but you were also a project manager to make all this happen.
I love that part of it. Yeah. That's a kind of an unusual thing, but I kind of like that.
What do you like about it?
I love all the people coming together. I like being a part of it. I don't like handing stuff off and just wondering what happens. I like to know all that stuff. Working with the engineers, working with the lighting people, and then part of that is, it's no fun to just trust somebody else because there's decisions always to be made all the way along. Where are the joint lines in the masonry work? I like all that stuff. I like to control all that stuff because it's all part of the art. And
absolutely.
I have a lighting guy that I like who's in Boulder, and he and I, set up cans and put them, move things around and do light bulbs. And I like to think about these things because every project you learn more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the fun of doing this kind of work. And I also, which is interesting, in Loveland, where I cast most of my work, I use individual artisans to do all those steps. A lot of people just take it to the foundry, they hand it in the front door, and it goes through all those steps and it comes out the back door. I literally have one person who has one business that is wax chasing, and they do all my waxes, and they know what I like and I know what they like, and we know how to work together. But they are very proud of their business, and that's kind of a beautiful thing. So I got used to working that way because these are the guys that taught me how to do bronze casting in the first place. And they all ended up shattering from one foundry and doing their own thing. And, it's really nice when you have your own company, you care more instead of, people that come in and out of the foundry system. You never know who might be working on your piece if they're in the wax room at the time. I got used to doing that with the people that I work with to cast my bronze. And consequently, I have a really hard time. I just worked with a big company that was more of a fabrication company. And there's just so many cooks in that kitchen. I can't get to know everybody. And what fun is that? I kind of like to know the people that are working on it. Kind of matters. I don't know why.
Well, it goes back to that connection thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to feel good about it and you want to have good energy. So if you're able to facilitate those things and work with people that you trust and you have a connection with, it just feels better and it's going to turn out better.
Yeah, I think so. It's also fun meeting humanity and getting everybody on this, working together. I don't want to be out here all by myself. It's a collaborative effort for sure.
Now, you worked with this California foundry because of their capabilities. Is that why you chose them, or?
Yeah, I made my guys in Loveland really sad. I did that because they had such a big crucible, and I really didn't want to cut this into so many pieces. And yeah, they did it in 2, 4, 5 pieces, and that was amazing because I think the edge we had to cut down into something like 23 pieces.
Wow.
Of course, it was a lot longer and bigger. It was twice the size of these guys. And so it had to be a lot more pieces, but that's a lot of welds to rebuild. And I just kind of wanted to try, see how it turned out. It was fun. It also gave me a massive challenge because I had to do the sculpture down there and I only had 10 days. So I carved up as much as the foam goes underneath this. I don't just use an armature. We build a foam model from the model, point up a foam, rough cut sort of thing. And then I cut it down until I get it how I like it. And then you start adding clay. So I drove the foam models to California and got to work at Artworks. And I only had 10 days. So I had to get up early, just crank and play loud music and hang out at the foundry and then go back and do it again the next day. It was fun. But I only think, if you think about it, I only had to do 2 guys in 10 days. I didn't have to do, and they were sort of well underway, but it was fun. I like a challenge.
It sounds exciting.
It was really fun. It's a fun project for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So they can pour multiple from these one cast. They can pour multiple
from one mold. Yeah. You call it the mother mold, and you'll pull multiple waxes from your mother mold. The ceramic mold gets busted up, but the mother mold is made of rubber and it's backed with like fiberglass sort of stuff.
Okay.
Sometimes plaster, depends on the mold maker.
Yeah.
But that's your mother mold, and you decide as the artist what your edition number is. I like small editions. In the olden days, they had to do small editions because the rubber was so shitty that it would break down after you started pulling more than 9. 9 was the magic number. Once you'd pull 9 out of the rubber mold, the rubber started breaking away in the little cracks and crevices. And then the original got worse and worse. Right. Now the rubber is so amazing. You can stretch it for 6 feet and it'll snap back into place and it's perfect. But
wow.
So you can pull hundreds out of a mold now, which is why you see artists doing massive editions. It's just that my stuff is also precariously mounted that I got to be up at the foundry all the time. I like to do a small number and be done with it.
Mm-hmm. So on the model that you made, the small one, do you make copies of that to sell?
Yeah.
Or
there's there are 9 in that edition too. As a set. I think we sold some individually, but yeah. I might have done a higher edition because they come in sets of 5 or people buy them in it. Yeah, my gallery told me what to do, but there's 5 in the edition of the big guys. I would never do them like they are at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Somebody might want 2 linebackers facing off or something like that, but I can make 5 of the set if I want to.
Okay. And you made a deal with the Hall of Fame that you could keep the small, or is that just a typical business?
No, we wouldn't normally negotiate that. Like Vail negotiated, they only wanted 1. That was an edition of 1, so it fetched a higher price. All the other ones I've done are an edition of 5. And usually I'll talk about, I won't be in the same state, or we won't be within 1,000 miles, or it'll be different colors and all that stuff. But the beauty of bronze is some people think that lessens the value of it. It really doesn't. It more adds the value, because if you think about it, everybody knows Rodin because the burgers of Calais are in how many museums around the world? There's an edition. And as the edition sells out, it's the value of the piece goes up.
Gotcha.
And if it's sold out, it's then more invaluable. And then they go to market, and then people buy them for way more, and the artist doesn't get any more. Right?
You need to get your cut all the way up.
Musicians have figured out how to do that, but the artists have not.
Yeah. Well, until the NFT thing, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I like them. My big pieces are usually editions of 5, and all my smaller stuff is usually 9, sometimes 18.
Yeah. And so can you talk about price on smaller pieces? Like, what do you charge?
Yeah, the smallest ones, my stuff's not that small, tabletop,
Right.
whatever. The bronze usually starts at around 10 and can go up to 18 per tabletop scale.
Mm-hmm.
And the big ones, those are these days hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
Just costs a fortune to make them happen.
Yeah.
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 But bronze is expensive. It's crazy stuff. So to drop 15 grand on a piece of bronze isn't that out of
Right.
the question.
For
I picked
sure.
an expensive heavy medium, two hernia surgeries. But I got to stop throwing this stuff around. I should start working with butterflies or something. My neighbors all know me. Hey, good timing. You came by. You want to help me carry this to the car? Yeah.
Do you carry like beer in a cooler?
Whiskey. I do.
So you can ply them with booze or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
So do you work off some kind of formula when you're pricing your bronzes or anything for that matter? Do you have some kind of?
It's too low. I need to. If you back in a formula, it would be about gross margins, and that. So your cost of goods, your gross that you get, you got to assume you're getting 60 or 50% from a gallery. So if your beginning price is 10,000 and you got to take 60% of that number would be my gross. Then I take my cost of goods, literally just the stuff that makes the thing, out of that, and then divide it by my cost of goods again. And that'll give you gross margins. And it has to be north of 50%, because if it's not, it costs you 30% of that number to be in business, as just ground rules, to pay yourself, to pay the accountant, to do all that stuff. And then that 20% is what will be the business surviving. And then beyond that, then you're really getting to make some money. And so if I don't hit the 50%, which now I'll always be north of that was a really great thing to learn. And it was the hardware that somebody taught me that for, because pricing hardware was so tight that when you learn your cost of goods, you can do it for one piece, you can do it for the quarter, you can do it for the year, you can do it for each individual piece in the edition of a sculpture. I know how much it costs, what my cost of goods are, and what my profit margin is because of gross margins. So that was my gross minus my COGS divided again by my gross. That sounds so weird, but that has to be north of 50% because it works. And then, I think you go from there with regard to, as far as bronze goes, you can increase the price as it sells out. So if I've only got 9, the first 3 will be cheaper, and then the price will increase accordingly, because as it's collected, it's proven that it's popular, or it's collected by people that are important or whatever. And as that number gets sold out, the last one would theoretically be the most expensive one sold, and then everybody's value has gone up accordingly. You wouldn't want to sell the last one for less than you sold to the first guy. So I would never sell a monument for less than I did it for the first time, sort of thing.
There you go, boys and girls. Some math. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing
notes.
Yeah, that's a helpful one. And you should do it every time you're looking at your books. You should know sort of where you stand, because you can do it with all your numbers, right? You know what your cost of goods are. If you break your books, if you do, your QuickBooks can set up that way. So it's a pain in the ass, everybody that looks at my books. So I do them myself, because I like to categorize every expense that comes in. And there's 7 different people working on every piece. So it's one piece. I know how much it costs. I got my wax pour, my wax chase, my metal pour, my metal chase, my patina, my base, my lights, my shipping. That's how much that piece cost. And then I can do my numbers. And then I go, oh shit, I didn't price it high enough. So I don't do that very often, but I did it this year because one piece got particularly complicated. And I was like, oh, 500, because I can guess pretty well now, but I didn't guess right on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have a budget to stay under too when you're doing commissions, right?
Oh, commissions, you have to know. Well, yeah, you wouldn't even present anything. You knew you couldn't fit into their budget.
Right.
In theory. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great.
With a little cushion. Yeah.
So I look at all these different pieces that you have, and God, we could talk for an entire day here.
I know.
They know you guys are awesome. You've been going for a long time.
Oh, this is average.
3 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Average.
write down all the stuff that makes me sound like
we're right in the realm of where we're usually at about
Perfect.
this time.
Okay.
What I was going to ask you is, do you consider yourself a storyteller? Because when I look at your work, I'm always seeing like some kind of story being told.
I've never thought of it that way, but I would concur. Sure. Storyteller. I don't know that there's as much of a story as there is I'm just sharing feelings and trying to connect with people. Stories are more literal. I want to connect that emotional energy or that emotional exchange more than a story. I want people to create their own stories, I suppose, but I want whatever they feel to be inspired by what I felt, even if it's not the same thing,
I guess that's where I was kind of going with that.
Yeah. I want people to be affected to revisit their own story, I guess.
That's a great way to put it. I love that.
Good. Making it up as we go along.
That's right. But it sounds great, man. Sounds great.
Good.
This is another commission piece of yours that I really love. And I know that you've done, I think you've done a couple of these in different locations. This is called Being Human 2, right? Because you did one in New Mexico. Hobbs,
Yeah,
New
the
Mexico.
first commission was in New Mexico. Yeah, Stay Human. Actually, the original little ones, teeny ones that I sell out of my studio, those were inspired by Michael Franti from Spearhead. I don't know if you know that musician, but he's fabulous.
Yeah.
I was at a concert that was just these bodies going wild all around me. And I literally am so visual. I can't hear the music if my eyes are open. It's too hard because I love watching humanity. So anyhow, this particular concert, he is just so energetic and he had the whole place just elevated. He's kind of like a spiritual, tapped in fellow. Do you know Michael Franti?
Yeah, I've never seen him in concert, but I know his music.
Fortunately, I saw him early in the game. So he was at the Fox Theater in Boulder and at the Boulder Theater too. But it's a small venue, which is so much more fun to hear music at. But I went home and just started drawing all these little, and people, you really can tell by somebody's sort of, this is why I like bodies and movement. You can sort of assess a person by the way that they dance, right? So there was just a little bit of all this different stuff going on. Guys won't let their hands get above their waist. and women that are wristy, looks sort of Far Eastern dancing to me when it's wristy. And, the Grateful Dead girls that all look like they're tripping. So there was a little bit of all this different humanity. And Michael Franti was on stage and he's a really tall, very statuesque fellow with big hands. He was amazing. And then he had a very voluptuous Black woman singing with him that had just this wildly booming voice. So the two of them started this whole brainwave of mine where I wasn't hearing any of the music, but watching the bodies. And then it went to all these other people. And I did 9 figures. And years later, this particular commission came up and they wanted it athletic, but they didn't want it to be sports, which was making me very happy because I had done so many sports and I was really trying to break out of being pegged for that. And then they backed off and said, no, we really sort of want it to be sports. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. This is athletic. And it's more people than just athletes. So you guys got a community center. This is about joy and happiness and dancing and getting together and community and what have you. Anyway, they let me, this is the one from Colorado, but Hobbs was the first installation of the piece. And it was 5 figures, and it was in a playground. So they actually spin, which is really fun because the mechanism in them is really spectacular. And they spun so well that they didn't really like it. They wanted me to slow them down. So it was like your own little personal merry-go-round, if you will.
Wow.
Yeah, and there are a bunch of them. And there's musical instruments and drums, Cajon drums and Emperor chimes with them. So that whole installation was about movement and music and community and like that. And they're all up high. They're like 7 feet off the ground.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's spectacular.
It was fun. Thank you. It was fun to do them big.
I think the thing I like about your sculptures, especially your sports and like this, your style shows so much strength. You know, even though it's very fluid here, there's so much strength in your characters. It's amazing.
Strength muscles, you mean, or strength?
Yeah, just strength. I mean, strength in muscles in a sense, but not necessarily in muscle, but they just evoke strength just as a visual piece.
Okay,
and I
good.
think it's the hard edges, you know, instead of the smooth, you know, muscular, smooth, like, you know,
right. They're more agitated. Look. It is, you know,
right.
The abstraction of it is a way to make it more than what it would be if it was representational. You know,
yeah.
you can make it more intense, more agitated. If you think about what's happening when a racer's going down the hill and the skis are wobbly, I mean, that's your license to make it more than meets the eye. And I think abstraction in that way that's the reason for it, because you can say so much more when you take whatever energy and run with it. What is a sensual line look like? What does an agitated line look like? What does a powerful line look like? You know, when you dance around in all those different energies, you end up using the material differently. That's sort of the beauty of abstraction, I think.
Yeah, and maybe that's the better term, is they evoke energy and power and not necessarily strength. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
I want to get to this project that you did at the University or Notre Dame University. Can you kind of talk about how that came into being, how that happened?
The beauty of that one was connections, which we were talking about earlier. It was a really fun project, but I knew the people who were involved at Notre Dame, and they put me on the table, and I had wanted to present doing hardware for the doors. And I had all these sketches, and I actually got to get in front of the campus architect, who's a brilliant gentleman, and had a wonderful exchange with him and said, this is what I really want to do. I know this family, and they set me up, and he said, let's do it. This is great. We've got nothing like it. And one of the other things that I was really happy about in that case was, as you know, probably Notre Dame started out as an all-men's school. So the only female representation in art on the campus is Mary, quite often. And so it was, for me, it was an opportunity to get more women into the picture there, because the history of the school has some insanely beautiful art, but a lot of it is very masculine and men's sports. And I wanted to get some girls in there, and that was really fun. And then because it was the student center, we wanted to have it not all sports centric too, although I did start out all sports, but they suggested that maybe it wouldn't be that. It's attached, if you know the student center, brilliant concept, is attached to the Notre Dame football stadium. And so it was very sports oriented. There's basketball arenas in there, and the track and workout rooms and yoga and all that kind of stuff. So it made sense to me to do a lot of sports, and I like to do sports, but there's also ROTC and the religious sort of component of Notre Dame, which is so beautiful. But so I kind of did a cross section of all these different student bodies, and absolutely love doing it. It's bas relief's really hard. It's taking a 3D thing and squishing it and making it look right. It was just a really fun project.
It looks really fun, and I'd love to see this in person. I mean, it really is spectacular.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a pleasure to watch people grab onto them. And that's another thing that's so beautiful. Bronze is meant to be touched. It feels so good. So the kids are opening these doors every day. There's 24 different handles. So there's, I can't remember how many are paired. As you can see, some of these are pairs. There are two, and then there's single door handles like the baseball player. But there were 24 handles that need to be sculpted, and the football one was the hardest because it was the most pressure. It's the football stadium. I'm freaking out. And because I was in this fabulous studio with all these athletes going through all the time, a football player came through, and right when I was doing the football, he was like, yeah, okay, I know what the problem is. Because I knew something was wrong with it. And I had grabbed a picture. Some of my reference was a guy who had his shoulders kind of shrugged. And I was like, there's something wrong with this. He's like, yeah, he's going to get hit. You can tell he's got his shoulders shrugged. You can't throw like that. So he was throwing footballs with me in my studio. It was absolute gas. And that was really fun.
That's so cool.
It was Jake Plummer, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, he was in the studio just at the right time. It was like magic. My angels coming through, and it was really pleasant to talk to him. And he said that I cut the shoulders down. It was perfect. Like that was all it was. And he literally showed me, this is what happens. You get gripped, of course. If you got the football and you're getting ready to throw it, you get gripped and you're going to get hit. You're going to shrug. And that little gesture just was bugging me, and I couldn't figure out what it was. But it was what the guy was doing. I wouldn't have known it. Football players know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was this project the catalyst for you starting your own hardware company, thinking that you could produce these things for, people that had high-end houses or just wanted something different in there? No?
These are way more bespoke than that. This was definitely for Notre Dame. I already had the hardware company, and it was for little stuff because my vision, when we designed our own house, all the hardware I wanted was so expensive. I thought, what the hell? I'll just make it myself. and so I made all our hardware, and then Mike won a bunch of awards for the house, and people kept going through freaking out on the hardware. And then when we sold the house, they said, we're not buying it without the hardware. And I said, well, I want to take the hardware with me. I only made one of all of these. And so they bought my mold. They paid for me to make molds, and I made a mold. I gave them a set. I took my originals, and now that I got molds, I was like, I should make these. And that was a cockamamie idea because it should be a full-time job to have a hardware company. But of course, I thought I could do it on the side, and it's really fun. And I like the idea of having something that's small and utilitarian because it will introduce sculpture to a broader audience. Because as a general rule, people don't buy sculpture until they're already well into collecting wall art. So not only am I the 1% of the 1% looking for, but that's the 1% of that, because people don't usually turn to sculpture until they're sort of seasoned collectors, if you will. And I just thought that's unfortunate because sculpture is really cool, and it feels so good. So if it was people's handles, you've got kind of an excuse to make an investment in a little piece of art in the kitchen where everybody hangs out anyway. And you don't get art in the kitchen because it can get dirty, but you can get bronze dirty. So it had all these reasons that made sense to me, and it still does. I love the hardware line, but I just don't really like selling it.
So do you think you'll try to partner with a hardware company and just create molds?
Yeah, somebody who's got in-house production capabilities.
Yeah.
And they'll probably cut the line way down, because my vision was to have a whole collection. You've got 14 different bodies in there, or 14 different faces, and you could curate them. If you only had 5 cupboards, you'd put those 5 faces there. And I think that's kind of fun, but it is, problematic just production wise and money wise. And you can't have inventory because people want ones of these and 2 of those. And it was just kind of, it needs to be in a house that can do, punch a bunch of those out and have them in a drawer.
Yeah.
And that's, we're working on that right now.
Yeah. No, those are cool. I love the ones that I've seen are just spectacular.
Thanks. Yeah. The Notre Dame ones are very different. They're more like big sculptures,
Yeah.
Right. But I guess when I asked that question, I was curious if after you did that, that was the catalyst for you to think, well, maybe I could do this for, on a smaller scale that, where I could reproduce, a bunch of them for, cabinets in a house or what have you. So.
No, the cabinets in our house were the impetus. I wanted naked bodies on the cabinets, who wouldn't?
And for people, there's a section on the website that'll take you to a whole other website, and it's called Handle the Art Hardware.
Thank you. What? You guys are the bomb.
Yeah, you need to promote something. We're happy to
help
promote
you.
it.
You're doing very well for me. Thank you.
Man. So most of what you sell is all done through galleries then. Is that correct? Like you're not selling direct, do you?
I have collectors that come directly to me now. I have some wonderful collectors that's been from a million years ago who followed me around because galleries have come and go, right? So I have personal collectors that come to me and come visit my studio and are awesome. And when new stuff goes out and I put a newsletter out, they collect the stuff that I do. And then I have fabulous galleries that have shows and some of the, like my Vale gallery, Clagger Ray is really, really great at doing, they've gotten me 2 big monuments, which is unbelievable. It's sort of all over the place. You got to have a couple different revenue streams.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's smart,
Yeah.
to
and
have
then the
all
hardware that's in hardware galleries too. DSKB at the Design Center carries it in Carter Hardware in LA. And that's where I stopped because it's hard enough to keep them happy. They're like, okay, you guys got to find me somebody. I don't want to do this. I want to make the pretty stuff and I want somebody else to make it.
I want to talk about one more piece, but before we do that, I want to ask you about, in addition to your galleries, how many galleries do you have right now?
I don't make my editions high enough to keep them in business. So I've only got my California guys. They've got actually 4 studios, 4 galleries under one name. It's Arena Galleries, and they have 4 up the Napa Valley, and they do very well with my work. So, and then I've got a gallery in Vale, and I work with a gal in Denver who has been friends for a long time, but we do more corporate stuff together. And like that one Stay Human, that was in Colorado Springs, and Bobby Walker and I did that together.
Do you get people finding your stuff and collecting and reaching out to you for sales via your social media? Has that been an important piece of your business?
Not for me. No, I think social media is a sort of a necessary evil. It's fun. But I don't find my people that way. I don't know why. Maybe I'm not, I don't know. I don't know, but no, I don't think people find me that way. I think connections and people and word of mouth and my galleries and even the monuments. I don't think people ever really take note of something and figure out who made that. I think they find me in galleries or have crossed a gallery before. I've had people come into my studio. They saw something 9 years ago in Breckenridge. That gallery's not there anymore. They're like, and I've been following you ever since. And my newsletter went out because I made something. I made a second edition of something in stainless. So it changed metals. It's a new edition, very much more contemporary looking. And they had been kicking themselves for 9 years because they didn't buy it. And it was sold out by the time. And then the gallery went away. But apparently they were watching me through my social media. So that is good. Yes, it does. Somehow people find you there. But I think they found me originally. And sometimes you don't know how they find you. I don't know. I guess I'm losing track. Maybe it's more important than I think.
Well, you've been doing this for a while and you're well established and people know you. So, the social media, and we find this with people that, if you're just starting out your art career right now, social media is essential. But for people that have been doing it for a while, I don't think it's as much of a big deal for
But I
people
do
that are
think
established.
everybody goes there, whatever you're doing, I think it's the first place they're going to go to make sure you're legit. So I think it has its validity for that reasons. I just don't know that collectors that are collecting at that level of money are hanging out on social media.
Right.
Makes sense.
So it's good for research for people, but I don't think they're shopping that way.
Yeah.
The stuff's too expensive. Too expensive.
Yeah.
This piece I absolutely adore. I mean, there's so many pieces we could talk about. Like I said, we could literally talk all night, but this one really struck me for whatever reason. And I just think it's just so stunning, so beautiful, and so tender. This me and thee piece, I just adore.
Thank you. That's my baby girl. She's not a baby anymore. She's way taller than I am. That piece was interesting that you should connect with that. I did it right after I read the Da Vinci Code, and there was all kinds of, read a book. It's going to keep coming back. I learned all kinds of pagan iconography that crossed over into the Catholic Church that intrigued me. So I was looking up the 5-petal rose, and if you look at her, there's a sort of a yin and a yang, and the chalice form, and the 5-petal rose right at her sort of baby zone, and then also right in her heart center that also crosses right through above the kid's butt, right at her heart center and through the kid's chest heart center. There's another 5-petal rose. Supposed to be connection to God. If it's spun a little bit, their hair is kind of cut like halos. And it was about that love connection. My daughter used to, she wouldn't get out of bed. She would absolutely, I had to go carry her, and she would just cling on to me when she was little like that. And it was just the coolest thing. And it's called me and thee because if, what do they say? Love is God, right? And it probably is. So that's what she is to me, or is it that I am to her? And you don't know who's me and who's thee, but to me, they are that, right? Or I am that, as they say. But it was about that connection. It was trying to put that into sculpture, that feeling of having such a wicked, cool connection with this little creature. And how she wrapped around and your lives intertwined and all the sort of celestial power of it. So that's why I like that piece. And it's been lovely to, I did that life size now for 2 different clients. And one gentleman who lost his wife and daughter, they did that and put a memorial to both of them in the backyard, and it had an inscription from their family in one of the arms that wraps around the back. It was really a beautiful opportunity to be able to sort of share in their love and pain / memory kind of thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, how powerful and amazing that is.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I like that piece too. And I don't know how I see myself that way because I'm a little skinny thing. You want to be voluptuous and sexy. Sometimes.
It's just lovely. Really lovely.
Yeah, thanks.
So you're in this new studio space. Do you show often? Outside of your galleries, do you do shows very often? Exhibits?
No, I should do that more. I keep talking about it. We had a great Christmas party. My studio ended up being the after party. I'm in a good enclave of other creatives. So I have people coming through my studio all the time, word of mouth, just people dropping by on a regular basis.
And you welcome that?
I love that. It's always fun, and I will always have time to stop and talk to whoever comes in. I think I like that better than parties and galleries and openings because I'm better at the 2 and 3 crowd than than the whole mass of humanity. But I will do more up here, I think, when I start to have a mailing list of locals. I think it's happening. We had a good Christmas party.
That's awesome.
Sure. Yeah, it was fun. And there are a lot of really talented designers and architects up here that I would love to meet anyway. So it's a good opportunity to open the studio up and bring people over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great way of doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a cool space. It's like a showroom. So that's fun.
So you mentioned you had a mailing list. Do you do newsletters or?
I do. I'll put you guys on it.
I was going to say, I want to be on your newsletter.
Okay, deal.
So how does this person sign up to?
Well, you can sign off on my website, but when we're done here, you just tell me what your what your emails are. I'll put you guys on there. I'd be honored. Yeah. I don't do it that often. I don't fill anybody's inbox, but I'm happy if we get one out a month. I've got some good marketing people that poke me. We should do a newsletter. They've been poking me since January. I just did one. I missed a couple months there. I don't know why, but once a month is what I'm shooting for if I keep it together.
No, that's good. And how do you collect your names for your newsletter typically?
At this point, they're kind of all over the place. Inquiries and collectors and friends, lots of friends, and then friends of friends, and it just has grown organically, word of mouth mostly.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great.
Before we leave off here, anything that you're excited about in the works that you can talk about right now, or anything happening later on in 2022 that before the end of the year that you're looking forward to?
I want that airport to come through. And all those other ones. No, everything's pretty exciting that you saw that. That's why I did that Epic Ideas page, because you never know who's going to look at it. And with thanks to you, maybe more people will, but all those things are exciting to me. But at the moment I'm doing some more personal work for fun. I'm getting back to just doing my own stuff again, because I got all carried away and chasing all kinds of competitions and stuff. And I miss just hanging out in here and making stuff. So I'm making some weird figurative art. I'm trying to figure out how to do those scribbly wire figures in neon. And I think that's really going to be a nightmare, but it could be a fun nightmare. I don't know. There's lots of fun personal projects is a good thing to resort to.
Yeah. Has that been really refreshing to be able to do that?
It is. I was playing with fabric and trying to make figures out of fabric and dipping them in wax, and we're going to cast them in stainless. And that'll be really interesting, because I like the fluidity of flowing fabric, but to make it stiff, you lose the fluidity. I don't know. Yeah. I'm having a moment where I just need to stop worrying about business at all completely and go away and just start making stuff again. And I'm doing some more of that. And that's really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Good for you.
Thanks.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall to watch your creativity.
No, you're going to come and do studio assistant.
I am. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I would love to. And like I said, I don't know if my wife will go for it, but man, I'm all up. I'm all about it.
Okay, good. She can come too.
Wes, you got anything else that you want to ask?
No, man, we've talked about a bunch, and it's been wonderful.
I know you guys are going to have some editing to do. Narrow that
Wes
down.
will have some editing to do. It's all good. I get to listen to this conversation again. That's what's wonderful about it.
Yeah.
You guys are amazing. That was really fun.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Great round.
We really enjoy it. And I'm going to steal Todd's thunder. Like time is the most precious thing you have. And we really appreciate the fact that you've shared so much of it with us tonight. Sorry, Todd. I had to do it.
Your spectacular prompts. I probably talked way too much and way too long. So I'm thrilled. It's really nice of you. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really fun to hang out with you and get to know a little bit about you and talk about the work. And it was incredibly informative. And we'll have you on again sometime.
That'd be awesome. We'll keep up.
We'll talk about the airport project next time.
Great. We'll be looking at it.
We'll be looking at it.
I like that. Deal.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, if you want to check out Gail's work, you need to go to her website. We mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, it's folwellstudios.com, FOLWELL Studios, and find her on Instagram at Folwell Studios. For the Tenant Podcast, I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown. Have a great week.